Podcast City Network.
Sing a little Nate Dogg.
Hey guys, this is Chris, and we're here live on Facebook Live for episode 35 of Final Score with Chris and that guy Craig. What's going on, bud?
Not too much, man. I was just humming a little Nate Dogg.
I'm so glad I got to throw that hat off though, and it's on your head now. It looks like it fits perfectly while you're over there jamming out. You know,
it fits great. It's a good day today.
It is a good day. It's like 73 outside. It feels wonderful. A little sun,
not blistering hot.
Well, Florida. We're usually just baking in an oven here, so It's kind of crazy.
Yeah, almost lost my mic stand for a minute as we went live, so that's fun.
No big deal. It's just under the rug. But you know what? It is great. When you go and follow us on social media, you can go on to all of our social media outlets on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And all you got to do is go to @PCN Final Score, check everything out we got. Give us a like, give us a subscription, give us a share, and most importantly, give us a rating. Let us know what you think of our show. We try to bring the best product we can every single week and the greatest sport news from the greatest people that we can. You're from Michigan. It's just,
Well, we couldn't get the greatest, so we settled for us.
We do what we can. You know what? We get an A for effort. Either way, though, make sure you follow us because you can always keep up to date on all the great things that we're posting and making because we like to go wild here. We love our sports. That's why we're Final Score. Anyways, so much to talk about this week, though. So much going on. And we're going to kick it right off with a little bit of college football because it was a wild week in college football with some huge matchups. And I'm not gonna lie, we took a beating this week.
Yeah, we took quite the beating in our picks this week. Would you say it was 7? We went 7-9, right?
No, we were 8-8. We broke 500.
Ooh,
yes, we broke 500.
Thank you, Hawaii.
Yes, thank you for Hawaii for your 42-40 win over San Jose State. Got us back to 8-8.
Yeah, thank you, Hawaii. But kicking it right off, one of the if you're not familiar with this segment, just a reminder that we pick 16 games across the country on either Friday or Saturday night, depending on
when it is,
when they happen,
or
how big the matchup is.
Early Sunday morning.
Yeah, or early if you're in Hawaii.
Thank you, Hawaii.
But we take 16 games every single week, and we try to pick games that we just basically do a straight up pick 'em. We do involve spreads a little bit, but we don't try to pick games that are Clemson Wofford like last weekend, or
we'd be undefeated at that point.
Yeah, or UCF Tulsa. Oh wait, sorry. Oops, wrong one. But we try to pick games that have decently close spreads, good matchups, marquee matchups, things of that nature. The first one was a bit of a surprise. We had Florida State 4-5 at Boston College. Florida State came out with a big dub there, 38-31.
Especially after everything going on with their coaching staff. It was surprising to see them come out and win this. I thought Boston College, especially with their defense, was going to be able to clamp down, but that's not what happened.
And they can run the ball.
And they still ran it well, but it's not quite well enough to be able to upend the Seminoles. Too much craziness.
Yeah, post Willie Taggart, they get their first W. 38-31 there. Next game, Texas Tech, West Virginia. This was a tough game to pick. Thankfully, I picked correctly. I got Texas Tech taking the win there, 38-17. They were up big early.
No, definitely.
West Virginia wasn't even in this game.
Yeah, and it was sad watching this because I did pick West Virginia because I was having a tough time, picking this game, man. I went with West Virginia as the home team, but home field advantage doesn't always work.
Yeah, first big marquee matchup on our list here. We had number 4 Penn State traveling to number 17 Minnesota, both undefeated. Huge game in the Big Ten. I picked with my head to go with Penn State, but I'm a PJ Fleck guy.
You are a PJ Fleck guy.
I love PJ Fleck. He's a great coach, great motivator. Minnesota with a huge game. Defense comes up big, gets the pick late. And Minnesota rowing that boat hard. Hopefully into the top 10. They got to be.
They have to be. You just upended the number 4 team in the country who looked so dominant against teams like Maryland and just looked amazing all season. And now you run into the golden wall, if you will, of Minnesota, because the Golden Gophers, they're for real.
They had their own Golden Domers going on up there in Minnesota. They had they're off to their best start, I think, since the 50s, I think I saw.
Oh, no, 1904, sir.
Pardon me.
1904.
But in PJ Fleck's third year, this is kind of goes to show what he can do as a coach. Did the same thing at Western Michigan. No surprise there. Great marriage between those two there. Next game, Baylor at TCU.
Yeah, that game was close all the way. Even took overtime. We didn't even see our first touchdown until overtime. Yeah, and it went into triple overtime. Absolutely was that entertaining.
Triple
overtime.
This is a family show, sir.
Hey, there's 3 fingers, okay? You know what? We're not even going to go there.
I swear we try to be a family show here.
We try.
Kind of.
I have kids.
Yeah.
Anyways.
But Baylor takes the huge W, 29-23. They stay undefeated, which is very important, especially in how tight that Big 12 conference is. You got Oklahoma nipping at your heels.
Yeah, and Oklahoma definitely is trying to make sure that they stay in the running, especially after the devastating loss they had earlier in the season. So we're going to see the Big 12 is wide open right now. And who thought Baylor would be undefeated and leading the Big 12 right now? Absolutely insane.
Yeah, especially with all the turmoil they've had in their program over the last few years. But the fact that they turn it around and they have the season that they're having now is just a great story.
Yeah, absolutely is amazing. So we'll definitely see how the rest of that ends up working out. But we also had a couple little laugher games just because teams that we thought maybe it'll be a little bit better just didn't quite get there. Stanford at Colorado, both teams just trying to find any kind of path to getting to a bowl game at this point, and Stanford traveling to Colorado, and Stanford took it close. Yeah,
Stanford is really struggling to find their identity this year. Did you say Stanford wins that game?
Stanford, yeah. Or am I just crazy?
Colorado won that game.
Sorry, Colorado won it close.
16-13.
Who cares? They're mediocrity right now.
Right.
Don't mind me. I'm like multitasking.
Yeah, Stanford really needs to find their identity again. They're having a really tough season, but it also hurts with Stanford having such a rough year. Doesn't make UCF's win over them look that much better.
No, it really doesn't. But LSU's slipping back into mediocrity at this point, so it's okay.
The next game we've got Louisville at Miami. This game, Miami was favored by 6.5. We both ended up going with Miami, and I thought this game would be much closer than it was. Louisville's been playing pretty well the last couple weeks, but Miami, they're on I think it's a 3-game win streak now.
Yeah, they're looking really good.
They've looked pretty good. They won 52-27. They absolutely manhandled Louisville at home at the Hard Rock Stadium. So, big win for Miami and Manny Diaz.
And don't forget that their quarterback set a Miami record 6 touchdown passes in that game. Absolutely amazing. And also tied the ACC record for touchdowns by a single player at quarterback. Amazing stuff.
Yeah, great stuff. Next game, we got Wake Forest, who's number 19. They were 7-1 to Virginia Tech. West Virginia was earlier.
Yeah, we already covered that.
This was a tough game for me to pick. I wanted to pick I did it again.
Look at what is it you? I did West it again. Virginia.
I don't know.
You think you got Mountaineers on the mind?
I do. I got Mountaineers on the mind. I wanted to pick Virginia Tech really badly, but I figured with the game next week, Wake Forest against Clemson, you think that Wake Forest wants to win this game, have some momentum going into because they've been playing really good football the last few weeks. They had a letdown game. Maybe they were looking too far ahead to Clemson, and they got handled pretty easily by Virginia Tech, 36-17.
Absolutely surprising in the outcome of this game. Virginia Tech, especially after the narrow, devastatingly disappointing loss they had to Notre Dame last week, where Ian Book had that great touchdown right at the end. That demoralizes the Virginia Tech team, but I also think it motivated them because you were so close to beating one of the top premier programs in the country. Now you got a chance again the next week against Wake Forest. Finally be able to put it together, and it was a great defensive showing as well. Hats off to the Hokies.
Absolutely.
They brought the lunch pail.
Absolutely. Probably the next game is probably the game of the week.
Oh,
I think this absolutely hands down the game of the week.
Before and after the game, still game of the week.
Yeah. I mean, Penn State, Minnesota was a great game, but you had the power top 5 matchup. Number 2 LSU undefeated, traveling to number 3 undefeated Alabama. Alabama was favored by 6.5 at the time that we put in our picks here. We both took LSU, and LSU wins 46-41. Great game to watch. I watched most of that game.
So many highlights.
Couldn't tell you how much I remember, but
it's so many highlights. And I think that's the part I love most. Whether it be the wide receiver right at the 1 yard line, going out of bounds, coming back inbounds, catching that pass, it being ruled a complete pass. So many crazy things happen in this game. Or let's not forget the punt return.
I'm surprised they ruled that a catch.
He reestablished inbounds. The only reason he got away with it is because they declared that the defender had pushed him out of bounds, so he was forced out.
But the defender didn't touch him, is what I'm saying.
He did.
He had his arm extended.
I wouldn't say it was a push out of bounds, but there was contact, and I think that's all they really needed to justify it.
Yeah, that's contact. Contact. I pushed you out of bounds.
Yeah, look, I'm on the other side of the table now. I'm out of bounds. Why would you do that?
You are out of bounds.
I got reestablished and then catch the ball.
Inbounds, correct side of opinions are over here, sir.
Whoa. Let's not get too carried away there, Michigan
boy. The correct
boy.
side of the fence is over here. But yeah, that was a classic game. I think that's what everyone really wanted to see out of these two teams, and not remember the game of the century a few years ago? It was 9-6 or 9-3.
The 9-6 snoozer that happened in Tuscaloosa. I remember that game very, very well.
Yeah, I'm glad this game actually had some points. LSU was up by I think 20 at halftime. Mm-hmm. Great game. Definitely one for the ages, and huge win there, because now LSU's got to be number one after this.
Oh yeah, absolutely. You can't go in and beat a Nick Saban-led team and think that in Tuscaloosa. That's the crazy thing. This happened in Tuscaloosa, and it was. In some cases, it wasn't as close as the score shows. LSU was able to get sizable 12, 15-point leads at points in this game and really show that they were not going to respect this Alabama defense whatsoever. So it was amazing to see what they did, but obviously Alabama hung in there tough, especially at the end. Who thought when LSU went back up as much as they did that they were going to turn around in one play and score on an 85-yard touchdown pass? Then again, you should be running bump and run coverage anyways that late in the game, but,
Right.
What do I know about football? But either way, though, really amazing game. Really great to see this. But the big question later on is going to be how far does Alabama fall? So touch on that one a little later.
Yeah, we'll give our opinions on the top six in a little bit. The next game, we got USC at Arizona State. This game, I was thinking would be pretty close as well. You picked USC. I picked Arizona State.
And I picked right.
USC, 31-26. You don't really know what's going on with USC right now because they're potentially in the middle of a coaching change. Talking about bringing in Urban Meyer or James Franklin. And there's a lot of turmoil in the athletic department there. I figured that would be a little bit too much distraction. And Herm Edwards has got a solid program at Arizona State. So you got to figure home team to take it there, but USC with a huge road win, which is really big for their program, and Clay Helton getting to 6-4 now being bowl eligible.
Yes, absolutely a great positioning that they're in now, especially given the fact that they've had a lot of turmoil when it comes to their athletic department as a whole, especially since the resignation of Lynn Swann, which we touched on last week. But it's great to see them get this win. Of course, not for me. I really don't care. I'm a Notre Dame fan. We beat them anyways. Oh, sorry. Did my fandom just come out? I'm so sorry. Either way, though, it's
your
just fandom's
always showing.
I like to wear it on my sleeve. What can I say?
And you wear it in pride and in defeat.
I will wear it no matter what, even though last week, if you saw our show, you saw the embarrassment I had to endure wearing all that gaudy, horrific maize and
awesomeness
blue.
Like this right here.
Did it smell when you got it back?
It was great.
I tried not to bathe after that game, so I hope it didn't
Thank
smell
God I washed it.
Too bad.
Thank God I washed it. But if you want to check that or any of our previous shows out, that is on FinalScore, podcastcity.net/FinalScore. And you can also see that on our Facebook page. Of course, if you're watching us now, you can just scroll back to it later.
That's right. Just go on down our feed.
So, yeah, if you want to see all the glory that was Chris wearing the maize and blue last week, check that out there. The next game, we had number 18, Iowa, 6-2, traveling to Wisconsin. Number 13, Wisconsin. Wisconsin was favored by 8.5, and they won by 2, 24-22. We both got this game correct.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a crazy game. Just came down to the fact that Wisconsin had to stop a 2-point conversion from Iowa to be able to keep this game from going into overtime. So this game was absolutely exciting. Iowa was able to hang around in this a little bit. So it's great to see this kind of competition. Iowa, I got to give them credit. They've really been starting to come back, even after losing some players in the NFL draft and a lot of little dips they've had in their program in recent years. It's great to see them in the national spotlight like this, really competing.
Yeah, and this is big because Minnesota has still a 2-game lead now in the Big Ten West.
Yes.
So Wisconsin needed this, and Iowa also, but the winner of this game needed that game to stay even close to what Minnesota's doing in the Big Ten West.
Absolutely, absolutely. But our next game is one I was really excited for. I liked the prospect of how this game could shape to be. Appalachian State at 7-1, been a great team this year, on the road taking on a pesky South Carolina team that we have to remember did knock off Georgia earlier this year and was favored by 4.5. But you picking South Carolina, I picked Appalachian State. Appalachian State came out on top 20-15 in a truly exciting game.
Yeah, they've had a pretty good program. Other than that one home loss in the last couple weeks, they still could be, in the conversation for a group of 5 berth in one of the bowl games, in the New Year's Six bowl game. So they really need to. This is a good signature win for them, even though South Carolina is not having a winning season. It's still a big win against a Power 5 opponent.
Absolutely, and it's always great for a program when you're trying to build, because they haven't even been back or even into the FBS for a full decade yet. So it's great to see the kind of progress they've made, because they were a powerhouse on the FCS level. So it's really great to see them find a lot of great success now at this point. Great recruiting, great tradition, great culture that they have there at Appalachian State. So it's great to see them really materialize that to take on teams that normally would beat up on teams like this.
Traveling out west, a couple games later, we got Washington State 4-4 traveling to Cal. Berkeley also 4-4. Both these teams got off to hot starts. Cal was ranked for a couple weeks. So was Washington State. We both picked Washington State here, assuming that their offense was going to kind of be a little bit more dominant than it was. Cal takes this game 33-20, and that defense comes to play again.
Yeah, it definitely does, and that game was something. And I really thought Washington State, especially a lot of the passing success they've had this year, they'd be able to put something together. But at the end of the day, Cal was able to show that there's still no fluke and able to kind of hang around and be the better team that they've been in recent years. So great win by the Golden Bears.
Next game in the SEC, we've got Kentucky-Tennessee at Kentucky. This game was a 1-point spread, and you picked Kentucky. I took Tennessee. Tennessee wins 17-13. Watch out now. Tennessee's on a bit of a win streak.
Yeah, they're currently 5-5 and looking way better than they did when they started the season, losing to teams like Georgia State. But it's crazy because Kentucky broke my heart again. They were up 13-0 after the first quarter and really had a chance in this game, but it was Tennessee from there on, and Tennessee ended up taking this one 17-13. And, man, Kentucky's just been having a bad time. I tell you what, it's just been a bad time.
You're going to have a bad time.
You're going to have a bad time.
Next up, we got your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, number 15 in the country, 6-2, traveling to Duke, who was 4-4, favored by 7.5. We both smartly took your Notre Dame Fighting Irish, and they dominate this game 38-7.
I feel like it was a no-brainer to begin with. Notre Dame definitely coming off of that cardiac win against Virginia Tech at home, definitely wanted to assert themselves and show that Notre Dame is still a team to contend with, and came out and played great against Duke, held Duke to so many 3-and-outs. I don't think I've ever seen so many 3-and-outs by a team at home even in a game in my life. It was absolutely amazing how the defense was able to just lock down on the running game and really keep their quarterback on his toes. And Ian Book honestly bounced back, looked great. Did throw a couple picks, but had some beautiful throws and some beautiful runs. Set a career best, 139 rushing yards in this game, in this great dominant win. And it was chilly for that game. I tell you what, everybody's huddled around those little heat warmers.
Well, that's why we live in the South.
That's right.
Because it is beautiful here in November, and I'm already starting to rub it in my friends' faces up north. So, love you guys.
Florida for the win.
Last game on the docket, we had Hawaii, the late game, hosting San Jose State. Hawaii 5-4. San Jose State 4-5. Hawaii was favored by 7.5. We both took Hawaii. Hawaii won in a thriller, 42-40.
Yeah, it went down to the wire. San Jose State definitely hung around all the way through. But at the end of the day, it's really hard to come to the islands and beat Hawaii at home. And Hawaii ends up taking this one. Really great. And Chevin Cordero ended up accounting for 5 touchdowns in this game. Absolutely great. Played out of his mind to help get his team the win.
And with those totals, we both went 8-8 this week. You are now at 121-62 for
right.
62 or 66% clip.
I'll take a 2 out of 3.
And I am 115-68 at 62.8%.
Well, it's okay. One day you'll get there.
We're both over 60%, man.
Yeah, we're picking great this year.
We're having pretty good success this year.
Man, we should have thrown some money down on these games this year. We would have done well.
We will. Actually, just a little bit of a teaser. We do along those lines, we do have a little bit of an announcement, not today.
Not today, not fully.
I want to iron out some details first, but we may have our first partner.
Might have. So definitely.
Might have our first partner.
Definitely. It's really exciting stuff.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully I'll have some more details next week about it.
So definitely make sure that you keep your eyes glued to our social media accounts on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook at PCN Final Score. Give us a like, give us a follow, give us a rating. Check out all the great stuff, and make sure you keep your eye out. It's going to be a huge announcement. Stay tuned.
All right, let's go to the game balls. Who's your first game ball?
Oh, man, the game balls is going to be great because there's so many great players who went out and just balled out this week. My first game ball, though, is going to go to none other than LSU quarterback Joe Burrow, who played out of his mind against Alabama. Alabama usually embarrasses quarterbacks, plural,
Ooh.
But not Joe Burrow. Joe Burrow went 31-39 for 393 yards and 3 touchdowns. Did lose a fumble on a little wonky play, but that's okay because Joe Burrow is going to end up slinging his way all the way to the Heisman this year.
He should. I hope so. He better. My first game ball is going to stay in the marquee matchup range. I'm going with Minnesota wide receiver Rashad Bateman.
Okay.
He's one of the best receivers statistically in the Big Ten, but I'm even going to go further than that.
Uh-oh.
He's been one of the best receivers in the country this year.
He said it.
He had 7 targets, 7 catches, 203 yards and a touchdown in that huge 31-26 home win over number 4 Penn State, and puts Minnesota into the national spotlight for the college football playoff.
Absolutely. That's a great pick. Not even going to lie. My next pick, though, stays in the SEC with quarterback Kyle Trask of Florida. Now, they're playing Vanderbilt, sure, beat them 56-0, but I think they're really showing that they do have a quarterback that can lead this team. And honestly, this is probably the best quarterback, dare I say, since Tebow, that can actually maybe lead them to a promised land at some point.
He's got a lot of potential.
He has a lot of potential. So I'd love to see what he did, but he goes 25-37, 363 yards, 3 touchdowns in their demolition of the Commodores. Another win for Florida, keeping it rolling.
They're still a top 10 team, even though with those 2 losses.
Absolutely.
My second game ball, I'm going to use the connection here from PJ Fleck, from his new school to PJ Fleck's old school, my alma mater,
there you go.
Western Michigan running back Levante Bellamy, who's one of the top rushers in the country. He's top 5 in rushing yards. 31 carries, 157 yards, and 3 touchdowns in a 35-31 win over Ball State earlier this week.
Absolutely great. I tell you what, Western Michigan can get some things done here and there.
Well, they got to play more consistently against everybody.
Well, that's why I said here and there.
Yeah, I mean they are bowl eligible, 6-3. So
yeah,
they're off to a decent start. They just got to keep it going.
Got to keep it rolling.
You just got to keep it going. Who's your last game ball?
My last game ball goes to quarterback Jaron Williams of Miami in their 52-27 demolition of Louisville at home at Hard Rock Stadium. Went 15-22, 253 yards and sets the Miami Hurricanes record for 6 touchdowns in this game. Also ties the ACC mark. Absolutely great game. Hats off to that young man.
My last game ball goes to Wisconsin running back Jonathan Taylor, who's also one of the best running backs in the country, on the list for the Heisman. He had 31 carries, 250 yards. He didn't score, but he averaged 8.1 yards per carry in the 24-22 win against Iowa at home.
I can't wait till that man gets drafted into the NFL.
Oh, I hope that he goes to the Detroit Lions. Honestly, honestly.
Oh, come on now. We know where he's going to go. He's going to go to the whole gaggle of stable of running backs that we have in Philadelphia. Let's be honest.
Tampa Bay is probably more likely. They could use him. They could use him.
They need a lot of help, but we'll touch on that stuff. That's future talk we're talking about. But someone who has no future, is going to headline our NCAA news, and that's none other than Willie Taggart.
Willie Taggart fired after the loss against the Miami Hurricanes last weekend, and man, that was a rough going for him. Well, a lot of questions about the fact that he was hired there in the first place, because he only really had 2 successful seasons in his coaching career. In his 10 years of coaching, he's only had a couple of winning seasons, that being excuse me, I didn't mean to cough into the microphone. That being against the South Florida. He had 8-win season there, then a 10-win season, then went to Oregon, 7 wins there, and then his first year at Florida State, 5 wins, and then only mustered up another 4 wins before he was ultimately fired last weekend.
Absolutely, and it's absolutely crazy to think how everything transpired. He played great at USF, had that decentish season at Oregon, turns around and just nosedives the Seminole program, and it's been crazy to think how he was so highly touted coming in and was hailed as the successor, the hire that should help get them back to the promised land, ends up snapping FSU's bowl streak of 30 plus years. It was insane to see what he did. Ended up having Francois, the quarterback, leave, had all kinds of issues with players. It was just a drama fest in Tallahassee, and now to see what's happening, they've kicked him out, didn't even let him finish the season, and now FSU is sitting at a position where they have to kind of figure out their future, figure out what their identity will be going into that future. But there's been so many crazy things when you look at a lot of these candidates and people, which I guess now could help us segue into our social media question. Yeah,
our social media poll, we've been putting those out and as part of kind of a new segment to get everybody involved, get you all involved.
Definitely.
And we
love our fans.
We asked the question, with Willie Taggart being fired from Florida State, who do you want to see lead the Seminoles next season? We had a couple of options. We tried to make them realistic. We didn't put Urban Meyer, James Franklin, people like that. That's way out there. You're not getting those people.
Right.
Just be realistic.
Well, let's be honest here.
Be realistic, Florida State fans. So we put in there Mark Stoops, coach at Kentucky.
Right.
Lane Kiffin, Florida Atlantic coach, who said that he was interested in the job.
Yeah, former USC and Tennessee coach as well.
Yep. Josh Heupel, who is the UCF coach currently. And other, because they only give us 4 options. So of
Twitter.
Yeah, of it. Well, Facebook's even worse. It only gives you 2.
That's true.
So get your game together, Facebook. But out of all the votes we had, 50% chose other. And then second was Lane Kiffin at 29%, Josh Heupel at 13%, and Mark Stoops got 8%.
Yeah, absolutely crazy. Had a couple comments, too, to try to get some feedback on what you guys thought would be good hires for FSU for their head coaching candidacy. Some of the comments we had on here, especially from, wow, that's a great name, a humongous fart. Gotta love that. Said Kyle Whittingham or Brent Venables. What do you think about those?
You have to go by his at.
Oh, sorry, at
yes.
Cry Over Irish.
Yeah.
Well, that's also apt.
Cry Over Irish.
Because he is a Notre Dame fan, I assume.
So Kyle Whittingham is an interesting choice. I don't think it'll happen, but he's the coach currently at Utah.
Yes, which you could see that kind of a move, moving in. Well, I mean, you're
doubtful.
doing it's a lateral move.
His coaching has been on the West Coast mostly, and look at what he's done to Utah's program. They're now, they have been over the last 10 years or so, one of the better programs in the Pac-12. So I don't think that's going to happen. But Brent Venables has actually been a very common answer. Of course, we had him there, and then at goal_Knowles 23 also said Venables. A friend of the show on Facebook, Dave Maynard, also said Brent Venables.
Yep. He definitely thinks that would be a good move for them, looking at that. So we'll definitely see how a lot of this is going to shake out. It's going to be really crazy. But I think there's going to be, I don't know if it's going to be any of these people. It could be someone total out of the dark, someone we don't even expect. Who knows?
Like the news that it might be Deion Sanders.
Like Deion Sanders. That sounds like a horrible idea.
That would be the worst idea they've ever had.
Like I'm
even worse.
I'm all for name recognition, dude, but that's bad.
So if you're going to do this, if you're Florida State, if you're going to bring in Deion Sanders, you need to bring him in as a recruiting ambassador or somebody that is there to help you bring in recruits. Mm-hmm. Giving him a program when he's never coached a day in his life, you don't even know what his philosophy is. You don't even know he's never necessarily cared about coaching ever.
No, he really hasn't.
He's always
been a baller.
He's always been out. Yeah, he's always been one of the best players on the field, but he's generally always kind of cared about himself and how he does, and which is fine. But I don't think anyone's ever seen any coaching traits out of him.
No, he's always been a player. He's never been a coach style. Like you see guys that are real football smart that come up and try to do their best, especially with coaching backups and things like that at their position, and being able to make sure you have the best overall approach and best overall guys in case anything happens to be able to fill in and be able to do their job. Deion Sanders is not that guy. He just goes out and he balls. That's all he used to care about when he played in college and in the NFL. I mean, come on, let's look at when he got drafted, for crying out loud. What kind of a show that was. At the end of the day, he's not a guy that's going to be able to lead a program. It would be a joke. I honestly think it would be even worse than having Willie Taggart as your head coach. So if they make that move, FSU fans, I apologize.
Yeah, we'll
you're gonna have to suffer a couple more years of.
We'll feel for you. We'll feel for you. He might be able to bring in some recruits, which is kind of what you're aiming for. Really, if you make that move, if you're the Florida State Athletic Department, you're looking for two things. You're looking to hopefully that Deion brings in big time recruits, which will help hopefully on the field. But you're doing it for ticket sales and booster happiness.
Absolutely,
that's all you're doing it for. You're not doing it to try to win on the football field. So it'll be a very, very intriguing process to see who actually does in fact ever take the Florida State job.
You know what's sad too is that Jerry Jones even came out and said that he thought Deion Sanders could be a great coach at FSU. If you get, that's not an endorsement I would want.
I think it's a good endorsement for Deion, but does it make it a right endorsement? No. But now here's the other question I want to squeeze in here, because we were talking about this a couple days ago off air.
Right.
Is what would be a better job right now? If you are going to be, if you have to pick between Florida State or USC.
Wow.
Florida State or USC. Now you got to think. Now, there's two different. Both have expectations that are pretty high, but USC is kind of on, in my opinion, on the level of Michigan, where it's if you don't win 9 or 10 games in your first year, you're already on the hot seat. You could be fired.
Yeah. I feel with this situation, a lot of recruits have been kind of shying away from FSU at this point. They know the program's in turmoil. They know there's issues with the coaching staff. They know that the philosophies have changed. The culture has changed. This isn't your Jimbo Fisher, let alone your Bobby Bowden FSU anymore. So honestly, USC is in a recruiting hotbed. They're right smack dab middle of LA, playing the Coliseum, have way more tradition and heritage than FSU, have a lot more access to better recruits for the entire state of California and the West Coast. FSU doesn't even have that down here in the Southeast. They're getting poached by all of their rivals, whether it be Miami, whether it be the Gators, whether it be anybody in the ACC with Clemson, in the SEC with LSU, Bama, Georgia, all these different teams that are able to steal these recruits from them because FSU just doesn't have that power right now. USC still has that. And that's something that coaches are going to be able to use to their advantage. So I honestly would have to pick the Trojans in this one.
Yeah, I would go with the Trojans as well, just because it's LA. I mean, you've got all the star-studded power. You got all the you've got equal alumni, I think, in both schools. I mean, you talk about Florida State, you got Warwick Dunn, you got Deion Sanders, guys like that. But at USC, I think you've got more of a more booster bag. You got more money to work with.
Absolutely.
More money to work with. And I think in that Pac-12 conference, you've got Oregon, but you got nobody in the South, though, that really has taken a stranglehold on that division or that conference. Whereas in the ACC, you got to deal with Clemson every year. You're in the same division as Clemson. That to me already would turn me off.
Yeah, because you're not going to be able to stop Dabo Swinney in that group. That group has been on a tear, and they still have Trevor Lawrence for the rest of the season. I mean, possibly 2 more years.
When a guy like Jimbo Fisher leaves the program,
that's huge.
Know something's got to be up, because yes, he did leave to go to Texas A&M, where that's his alma mater. I get it, because that's going to happen. But it wasn't the fact that he's just like, yeah, it's my alma mater, I want to go. There were other things going on behind the scenes that kind of helped him push himself out.
Well, that and Jimbo Fisher was the coach in waiting behind Bobby Bowden. He waited all those number of seasons to be able to become the head coach at the time, a premier program. So for him to walk away, and honestly, I felt like it was so soon after he even took over, because he's only head coach for, it was less than 5 years, maybe 4 years. So he ends up walking away to go to his alma mater, who, not that Texas A&M's a bad team, but they were still a team like kind of on the rebound, given everything that they had dealt with their starting quarterbacks and their head coaches. So it was very interesting to see that. It was more telling to what was going on with that program than more people thought.
Absolutely. But one more piece of news before we get to our top 6 for college football. Now, even before Minnesota wins this huge game at home against Penn State, earlier this week, Golden Gophers extend head coach PJ Fleck through the 2026 season, and he will get, quote, significant pay raise for he and his staff, end quote.
I mean, when you're rowing the boat as hard as he is, you deserve it.
He's gotten 1-year extensions in 2017 and in 2018, but he is still, at this point, $3.6 million salary ranks 11th out of 14 head coaches in the Big Ten.
And honestly, he deserves all of it, because PJ Fleck has literally turned around the entire Golden Gophers program. Minnesota is now a program you actually have to keep an eye out for. Nobody thought they would be here whatsoever. Maybe a bowl berth at best. Yep. And now they're sitting here able to control their own destiny and are the only undefeated Big Ten team outside of Ohio State left.
Yeah, 5 wins in his first season, 7 wins in the second season, and now an undefeated season so far.
9-0.
9-0. So huge props, of course. Like I said, I'm a big PJ Fleck guy. Loved watching him kind of grow in his first coaching job at Western Michigan. It was a lot of fun to watch, and just continued success for him moving forward. And
it's going to be great. He's now really going to be able to start getting those recruits, because everyone's going to want to be a Golden Gopher now. Watch. Well,
he had a lot of recruits, because he was recruiting 4-star recruits to Western Michigan of all places.
Yeah, of all places.
So of course, when he went to Minnesota, you were just gonna have to assume that those two, Minnesota's gonna let him build the program the way he wanted to, which now you see the results of that.
Mm-hmm.
Now, whether they can sustain it for the rest of the year into next year is going to be another key.
That's definitely going to be the key. But this also kind of segues us into our next segment, which is the final score college football playoff top 6. Minnesota's definitely making a push for it. Did they make your top 6? Who you got?
They did not. They get honorable mention for me. I've got them at roughly number 8. I would say them.
That's good.
I would say top 10, especially winning against the number 4 team in the rankings. But honorable mention, number 8, Minnesota.
Honestly, I'd have to put an honorable mention for Minnesota right about 8 as well. I think Minnesota, watch out. If they keep this thing rolling and keep rowing that boat, they might be rolling themselves through some Buckeyes and a Big Ten title. Just watch.
Oh, I would love that.
Oh, I know you would.
I would rock, I know I'm a Michigan fan, but I would rock some Golden Gopher gear for the Big Ten championship game.
Hey, I ain't gonna lie.
I'm not kidding.
I'd be down.
I mean, I'm in. But of the 2 teams outside looking in the college football top 4, I've got at number 6, Georgia. I still think they're a good enough team. They're still one of the better teams in the country. You could make the argument that it could be Oregon, Utah, who else? Penn State, kind of, maybe, if you wanted to. But
right.
I've got Georgia at number 6.
At number 6, I actually have a tie that has Georgia and Utah. I feel like both teams are playing really great football. Utah's been playing the best football they've played in some time, really showing that they are a dominant factor in the Pac-12. And like you said with Georgia, I feel like Georgia's still trying to find a little bit of their identity defensively, but offensively, Jake Fromm's starting to get back into form after the devastating loss to South Carolina. So really great to see what they're doing, but both tied at number 6.
I've got a tie at number 5.
Hey, look at this go.
And my tie is number 5, Oregon, and then Utah. Both being in the Pac-12. I think they're not going to play each other this year, so it's going to be really intriguing because I believe they're both in the same division, which boggles my mind why they don't play each other. Pac-12 really screwed up there. when making these schedules. But it's going to be interesting to see who's going to get selected to go to the Pac-12 championship game. But I think if both of these teams win out, and whichever of the team gets selected to the Pac-12 championship,
Utah's in the South, Oregon's in the North, so they would end up facing each other in the Pac-12 championship.
That doesn't make any sense. They're both northern geographically.
Yeah, but when do they do anything that makes sense when it comes to geography?
That's true. You're absolutely right. I'll give you that.
Yeah.
So I am really excited to see. I think the winner of the Pac-12 will eventually catapult into the top 4, but I've got both of them at number 5.
Definitely a good one. For my number 5, I have Alabama. They had the loss to LSU, and honestly, I felt like this game was a little bit more separated than the score eventually gave. Alabama definitely battled to try and stay in this one, but had a lot of big key mistakes. But I think what really hurt them was the Tua Tagovailoa surgery that he had just 20 days previous to this game.
Did not look like himself.
And even after the game was limping off of the field, clearly in pain. But Alabama, I feel, is a hurt dog at this point. Definitely not something you want this late in the season. So I'm not so confident in Alabama's chances. I think they could even sustain another loss, especially if they don't be careful with Auburn. So we'll definitely see what happens going forward, but I have them currently at number 5.
I still have Alabama at number 4. I have them barely in. I mean, it is for me very close. Bama and then Oregon, Utah right there. But I have Bama at number 4. Yes, they lost, and Tua doesn't look great, healthy, but they're still one of the best 4 teams in the country. In my opinion, they're still one of the best 4 teams in the country.
Yeah, still a great team, though.
So I still have them at number 4 at this moment.
At my number 4, a little bit surprised, or you might laugh at me at this one. I have Oregon all by themselves. Oregon, I feel like, has proven themselves, especially after weathering a lot of early season issues that they had, trying to get Justin Herbert going early on. Where
losing a heartbreaker to Auburn at the beginning of the season.
Yes, but that was such a close, great game, but has really shown, especially with Auburn still being a top 12 team, that Oregon could definitely hang with the big boys and was able even to grind out ones that maybe they could have lost quite easily, especially against Cal. That was a big one that comes up in my mind. But they dominated a USC team by 30 points that I feel could really contend with almost any team themselves, especially with everything they've dealt with. So Oregon is definitely a team on the rise, and with how their schedule looks, the only kind of challenge they're going to have going forward will be the Pac-12 championship game, which will be presumably against the Utah Utes.
Number 3, I have Clemson. Clemson, of course, being a product of Penn State losing.
That's right.
Clemson does not look good to me most of the time. Trevor Lawrence does not look like the same guy he did last year, but he's going to grow. Teams are going to start figuring him out a little bit. He's just got to adjust, adapt to it. He's throwing up way too many 50-50 balls for me.
Way too many.
It's just I don't know if it's cockiness or if it's just trust in his receivers, but just based on how things are falling, they're still winning. They haven't lost yet. They're still number 3 for me.
Yeah, I also have them at number 3 because Clemson is your defending national champion, but they are a product of Penn State and Alabama losing to be able to even be in this spot. Because like you said, there's been points in this season where you really had to question if this team really can sustain what they did last year when they were dominant in every single game they played, even the national title game. But Trevor Lawrence does have 22 touchdowns and 3 picks against him so far this season. Had 3 touchdown passes in this most recent game when they absolutely blew out. I don't even remember who they were playing because it didn't matter. They beat them by 34 points.
You can remember how much they won by, but not who they played.
Well, things happen.
Okay.
I mean, I was having to watch the post game for Duke Notre Dame where there was a lot of funny stuff going on. Anyways,
gotcha.
Either way, though, Clemson is still going to be the class of the ACC and are going to roll all the way into the ACC title game. Still have to watch out for Wake Forest. They're going to be looking for a little bit of revenge and trying to do a little bit of spoiler now that they're at 2 losses. So we'll definitely see what happens. But Clemson presumably is going to keep this thing rolling into the playoff.
Number 2, I have Ohio State. Now I know they're number 1 in the committee's eyes.
Man.
I've had Ohio State at number 2 for quite a bit of the season. Ohio State is a very good team. They could be right now they're without Chase Young for the last 4 games of the season.
Yeah, 4-game ban.
The first 2 games aren't going to make a difference. You got Maryland and I forget the other one, Indiana maybe.
Yeah, which they absolutely trounced Maryland. Ended up throwing up 70 plus on them. So
yeah, and then you've got Penn State and Michigan. Both of those teams are going to try to play spoiler for the Buckeyes leading into the Big Ten championship.
Absolutely. I also have Ohio State at number 2. Justin Fields has been playing absolutely out of his mind. And this offense has shown that they could definitely put up points, like I said just a moment ago. But Ohio State is going to have a lot of tests left. Penn State's going to be looking to play spoiler, like you said, especially after losing to Minnesota. Michigan, always a big game when you're looking at the game. So definitely going to be one to watch out for. But Ohio State then is still going to have to win the Big Ten championship game, which is going to be a hard test unto itself as well. So Ohio State has a really hard road, but if anybody's going to weather it, it'll be the Buckeyes.
Number one, I have LSU. I've had LSU as my number one team for a number of weeks. Joe Burrow is my Heisman. I said it the first couple games into the season.
Oh, yeah.
Joe Burrow should win the Heisman. LSU, especially after that win in Tuscaloosa, you travel there and not only win, but you were winning convincingly for a majority of the game. Credit to Alabama to come back, but LSU, hands down, my number one team in the country. I don't even think there's an argument.
And before I get to my number one, real quick breaking news in college football. Arkansas has fired their head coach, Chad Morris, after a 4-18 record and 0 SEC wins in 2 seasons with the team.
To be honest, I thought Brett Bielema was still there, so...
He was the AD for a while.
Clearly, nobody outside of Arkansas, Fayetteville, really cares. So if you're an Arkansas fan, I'm sorry, I had no idea that Brett Bielema left.
Hey, maybe they'll get Lane Kiffin.
I mean, he would do it.
He would do it. Well, he'd do just about anything.
Yeah, he just wants that Power 5 money.
Yeah, exactly. Just go get his social media. Anyways,
Yep.
Either way, though, my number one, also LSU. Joe Burrow is going to win the Heisman. Ed Orgeron has this program back to where it needs, and he's taking the great approach one game at a time. Everything he kept saying in his press conference, we played great football. We took down the Tide. This was the game on our calendar that we had circled in red, and we were ready to come into Tuscaloosa and do what needed to be done, and they did it. But now they just want to go to the next game, take care of Ole Miss, keep it rolling, and see what kind of magic the Tigers still have. Go Tigers.
All right, we're going to move on to NFL.
Oh, yeah, going to jump right on in because NFL's been a little bit crazy. We had that Thursday night game that was pretty exciting, honestly.
Very exciting game.
Got a lot more out of it than we actually expected. The Raiders ended up clipping the Chargers at home, taking it 26-24. And the Chargers, man, it just gets worse and worse after the great season they had last year. They're just circling the drain at this point.
Yeah, Melvin Gordon actually had a good game. He really kind of been struggling up until last week at 80 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he has kind of come back to his old form. But the real big story here is the fact that Oakland's pass defense is one of the worst in the National Football League.
Oh, yeah.
And Phillip Rivers threw 3 picks in this game, took 5 sacks.
Yeah, absolutely insane how the Oakland Raiders played. If you started the Raiders defense, you were crazy to begin with, but you're a genius now because they absolutely demoralized this offense when it came to turnovers and getting to the quarterback. But I mean, you can't count out any John Gruden-led team. John Gruden's been always able to get the best out of players offensively, defensively, and it showed, and that's why they're in the position they are now, because now the Raiders sit 5-4, and don't look now. They might actually be able to make a push for playoffs.
They're 4-1 at home. They're playing very well in the last year of the Oakland Coliseum. End of an era, and they're going to be moving to Las Vegas next year. But yeah, they're right in striking distance because the Chiefs are, if I'm not mistaken, 6-3.
Yes,
they're right there. 6-3. They're right there with them. They're getting Pat Mahomes back, which is huge. But how healthy is he really going to be?
Exactly.
When it comes to game time, contact, all that kind of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But one last little tidbit. How about Josh Jacobs?
Playing great. This kid is amazing.
He was projected as a 2nd or 3rd round pick because even when we were doing our mock drafts, we had him both in the 2nd round.
Yeah, definitely in the 2nd round.
The Raiders essentially trade up. They use the Khalil Mack pick to take Josh Jacobs, who arguably is the offensive rookie of the year.
Absolutely. Josh Jacobs been playing out of his mind. So then even in this game, it may not look like it, but 16 carries, 71 yards, a touchdown, 3 receptions for 30 yards. He was very, very manageable and was able to keep himself in this game and keep himself as a factor. And he's been able to do that game in and game out. He has played great, great football this year.
He has 811 yards rushing on the season, and he's averaging almost 5 yards a carry, 4.8. He's got 7 touchdowns this year, no fumbles. 0 fumbles.
Yeah, 0 fumbles, and that's huge for any kind of a rookie because first thing you want to do is you want to rattle a rookie. You're going to hit him as hard as you can. You're going to try and get him to force fumbles. That way you can try and get into his head. This guy, you can't get to him. He is the guy that's going to make it happen, and that's what's been great. If he keeps this up, he's looking to have a roughly 1,400-yard season if he can keep these numbers going. So we'll see what kind of running back we're going to have at the end of the season, because this guy, he's for real. And this might be what Oakland's been needing to replace and fill that void of Marshawn Lynch.
They've got a great thing going. They're building a great team. A lot of people were making fun of, the moves they were making. Mm-hmm. They brought AB, and then they got rid of him. They got rid of Mac. But, I mean, look at what they're doing now. Yeah, they've had a rough start. This is a transition. But John Gruden's got this team between Gruden and Mayock. They're building what they want. And they're doing it the right way. They're doing it the way they want.
And can we say that they might even be a little bit ahead of schedule where they are with their rebuild?
I'm 100% with you on that. I think they're about a year ahead of schedule.
I'd have to agree. Absolutely. So when they transition to Las Vegas, it'll hopefully be. Now, obviously, it'll be in the new stadium, but obviously, we're going to be looking at a whole fresh team that's going to be able to really contend in this division. Now, obviously, you're still going to have to contend with Kansas City, but it's a lot more realistic now.
Absolutely. Let's look at the games of the week we got coming up here.
A lot of games.
So you had predicted the Raiders to win that game, so you're off to a 1-0 start this week.
1-0.
I picked the Chargers. I figured Phillip Rivers would have a field day. Didn't happen. I'm 0-1 on the week. But first game on the docket, we got Lions at Chicago. Lions at Bears.
Oh, yeah.
The spread was 2.5 in favor of the Bears before the breaking news this morning. Matt Stafford is going to be out this game with a fractured back, essentially.
Yes.
Which is something that he was dealing with all of last season.
Yeah, and it now is rearing its ugly head because he was able to make it through pretty much all of last season without too much of an issue. But now that he has these broken bones in his back, the doctors are flat out telling him he cannot play. He possibly could risk paralysis, and that's not something you want to deal with, because why affect your entire life just to try and play in one football game?
Because he's that tough.
Oh, come on.
He's that tough.
He's that dumb.
Ask any of Lions fans. Matt Stafford is like, like with Detroit, it's all about blue collar, that kind of bring your lunch pail. This man embodies that.
Okay, well, let's leave the lunch pail of Virginia Tech and look at the reality that what has that actually gotten.
Tech? Why Virginia Tech?
Because they always bring the lunch pail. That's their whole thing.
Jesus.
They're all about their lunch boxes. Anyways, maybe we can send them like a nice Disney one or something. Anyways, either way, Detroit, you know what they've been known for? Mediocrity. Because playing through injuries like that and trying to put yourself on the line has gotten the Lions nothing. And that's why I'm saying, Stafford, you need to just step back, go ahead and heal up. If you feel like you can still sling it a little, go ahead and come back eventually. But don't put your body on the line like that, because you're essentially going to affect your entire life if something were to happen.
Starting in his place, Jeff Driscoll is getting the nod. Of course, Florida fans remember him very well.
Oh, yeah.
But he had 5 starts last year at Cincinnati, and he threw for 1,000 yards, 6 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. He didn't play terrible, but
it's not terrible.
He only threw for 59% completions.
Ooh.
And, took sacks more than, you would really like to see out of your quarterback.
Wow.
So for that reason, because the Bears still have a top 10 defense in the NFL.
With Khalil Mack.
Regardless of how bad their offense is and how bad Mitchell Trubisky is, I'm sorry, if you thought he was taking a step forward, Trubisky, I'm laughing in your face, because we've known this and we've said this in our preview show. The Bears are taking a step back because Trubisky is so awful that there's no way they can carry that defense is going to be able to carry him again this year.
Oh, yeah, definitely can, because at the end of the day, Mitchell Trubisky is hot garbage, on fire. He was not the greatest quarterback in college, only had 1 year of starting experience anyways, and you go and draft him and pretty much got swindled by the 49ers, who now are sitting back and laughing as they're sitting here still undefeated, and you now have a garbage offense that really relies on either Tariq Cohen or David Montgomery to be able to try and get it going, because you ain't relying on Mitchell Trubisky to get it going. So at the end of the day, you have an amazing defense and a worse than subpar offense. And it's sad, but yeah, way to go, Chicago.
So for both of those reasons, we're both taking the Bears here today at home. Both teams really need this for the NFC North, but
low scoring. Watch.
Yeah, it's not going to be much of a game. I think it's going to be a sloppy game. We're both taking the Bears here. Next game, we've got the 6-2 Ravens traveling to the winless Cincinnati Bengals. We're both taking the Ravens here. What's your take on this one?
The Bengals are tanking better than Miami. I can tell you that, because at the end of the day,
the sad part is I think they're actually trying, though. They're trying to win games.
Yeah, that's the thing.
They've been in some games.
It's unintentional tanking, and I think the best way you can tank is doing it unintentionally. Way to go, Bengals! You're pulling a Detroit line. Oh, sorry. Anyways,
Miami Dolphins. Get out of here.
Hey, but who did it better? Detroit. Anyways, the Ravens at 6-2.
The Jets. I can name so many other teams
that went winless.
The Browns
that went winless. Well, yeah. Okay, you made your point.
Boom.
But the Ravens at 6-2 have looked amazing with Lamar Jackson after knocking off the Patriots off their undefeated record last week, and now we're going to come into this game. We're going to mop the floor with the Bengals, who have benched Andy Dalton. So, way to go, Bengals! You ain't got a season now.
Bengals have the statistically worst defense in the NFL this year. I think Lamar Jackson has a big day, and I don't think this one's even close.
Nope.
And we didn't have spreads for this one, so
yeah, there wasn't even a spread. You know why? There
wasn't even a spread. It's that bad.
It's that bad. You don't need a spread. We already know who's going to win this. Looking at our next game, though, the Buffalo Bills will be traveling over to Cleveland and take on the 2-6 Browns, who are looking to try and rebound off of this horrible start in their first 8 games. Browns are favored by 3, though. What's your take on this one?
I'm taking an upset. I'm taking the Browns in this game. They've lost 4 straight games, but they still post one of the better pass defenses in the league. And Josh Allen, not a great. He's making strides, but he's not great right now. He's not consistent. I think with that pass rush, that pass defense, Kareem Hunt is making a return to the NFL. He's going to be in this game. I think the Browns at home, they need to turn their game around. I'm taking them in an upset here.
Oof, I'm taking the Bills. And for the single fact that, yeah, sure, you got Kareem Hunt. Kareem Hunt hasn't played football in almost a year. He's missed the entire first half of the season. We have no idea what we're going to get out of him. And I really suspect they're going to probably run Nick Chubb more anyways and keep Kareem Hunt on a run count. But the big thing that I see is that while the Bills, yes,
Nick Chubb is still good too.
He is. But the Bills, while I do agree, do not have the best pass offense in the world. One thing they do have, effectiveness in the red zone. And, oh, yeah, the two-headed monster of Frank Gore and Devin Singletary. That is going to be just enough, I think, to keep them going and propel them to this win, because one thing they do also have is a great defense themselves. So definitely watch out for the Bills. I think the Bills are going to take this one in a real close game. They might not even cover the 3 points, but, hey, who knows?
That's fair. I think that'll be a very close game either way. Next game, we've got Atlanta Falcons 1-7 traveling to the 7-1 Saints. Saints are favored by 13 points. We're both taking the Saints, but I am going to say, watch out if you are the Saints, because if we know anything about Dan Quinn, he's a great motivator. He still apparently has this locker room from anything that I've seen and all these reports, watching stuff throughout the week.
Right.
I wouldn't be surprised if the Falcons play spoiler and somehow pull this game out of where.
Oh my gosh.
I'm picking with the Saints because I think they're obviously a way better team. And you don't know if Matt Ryan's still going to play. Is he out still? You don't really know what that's going to be like. So I'm taking the Saints, but watch out. Atlanta at this point could play spoiler for just about anybody.
Oh, my goodness. Here's the thing I'm going to look at is that the Saints are not only going to win this game, but I think they're going to cover, too, that 13-point spread. Because of the simple fact that the Falcons on defense are demoralized with injuries. So you're going to be able to get moves on that ball with Kamara, who's also back now, Jared Cook, who's now back full strength after being out the last 2 games. It's going to be a great game, especially for Drew Brees to come in there and really start feeling himself out. Now he's starting to get warmed back up and into the game more so after having some starts now. But looking also with the Falcons, even if Matt Ryan were to come back, I still think he's going to be hobbled, and he's been having problems getting good protection. And that's going to be a big problem going forward to be able to get this offense really rolling.
Yeah, that's been their issue all year.
So I definitely think that the Saints will win and cover in this game.
Next, we got the Battle of New York. The Giants 2-7 traveling home for a home game in their stadium, but they're not the home team. They're playing the 1-7 Jets. They are doing their best unintentional tank job, losing to the Miami Tanks. But the Giants are favored by 2.5 in this game. We're both taking the Giants. I think the Giants are starting to finally get a little bit at rolling. I think Saquon Barkley has a huge game. Danny Dimes making plays, I think, with both his arm and his feet. I think that the Giants cover the 2.5 spread.
I have to agree. I think the Giants will also cover, and I think that Sam Darnold's going to probably see some more ghosts this time around, or G-men, if you will, and we'll definitely see.
I see what I
did there, and be able to definitely take the Jets and tank them even more. Now, the Jets did come out and say that they are still committed to Adam Gase at this point. They want to see how he does in a larger body of work, and aren't going to keep him on the short sample of this 1-7 record right now. So definitely see that Gase is going to be trying to battle for his job. But after they lost to the Miami last week, it's hard to see them doing anything going forward. So definitely the Giants, and they cover.
Next game, the Arizona Cardinals traveling to Tampa Bay. Cardinals 3-5-1. Buccaneers 2-6. Bucks are favored by 4.5. You've got the Cardinals. I've got the Bucks. Why are you taking the Cardinals?
I think honestly, Kyler Murray's starting to get into his own groove, and he hasn't thrown an interception in a number of pass attempts, and has been playing great football these past few games and been able to rattle off a few wins. So the Cardinals are a team that definitely are starting to find themselves, and also getting Kenyon Drake was a huge move that paid massive dividends for them, even to the point where I'm now starting him this week in fantasy. And I think they'll be able to have this two-headed beast of Kyler Murray and Kenyon Drake be able to come into a cohesive unit for this air raid offense to be able to find a lot of good production. And also, let's not forget the defense and the strides they've made in these past couple weeks, especially now that they have their star cornerback.
You're talking about the Cardinals defense picking up? Mm-hmm. Cardinals are ranked 30th in total defense.
They just got their star cornerback. It's all good.
But I'm taking the Bucks because I think Jameis Winston has a big game. I honestly think this offense is going to throw it all over the field. Tampa Bay does have the worst passing defense in the NFL, but Arizona's at 29. This is going to be a shootout either way. But I think the edge here goes to the Bucks. They have the best run defense in the league, allowing only 78 yards per game, and their defense is, that rush defense really helps them. And I think, like I said, Jameis Winston has a big game. Godwin has a big game. I think there's a lot of passing yards in this game.
Definitely could be, and we'll definitely see how that one plays out. In our next game, though, and this is the one everybody's really looking at, is the 6-3 Chiefs traveling to Houston to take on the traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans. Let me get my teams right here.
The Houston Titans?
Hey,
the Oilers?
Hey, we're not talking about the Oilers. That's years past, sir. But the 4-5 Titans are underdogs in this one, as the Chiefs are favored by 3.5. The Chiefs, though, are getting back Patrick Mahomes, and this is the big thing. This is going to be the big test, because this Titan defense is going to play good, hard football, because that's what they do. This defense is actually not that bad. But the offense is what's going to be the question. Ryan Tannehill has been playing some good football lately, but it seems like there's been a couple times where there's a little bit of inconsistency from series to series. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see which Chiefs defense is going to step up to be able to see if they can hold down this Titans offense.
Yeah, I'm also taking the Chiefs here. Pat Mahomes coming back. Tennessee does have a good defense, but their pass defense is 17th in the NFL. Returning Pat Mahomes, you know what he can do on the field.
Definitely.
I think this will be a really close game, especially being on the road, but I've got KC in a close one.
Yeah, definitely going to be an interesting game. And in our next game, we have the 1-7 Dolphins coming off their first win of the season, traveling to Indianapolis at Lucas Oil Stadium to take on the 5-3 Colts, who are favored by 10.5, at least as of when these lines came out, because there will be no Jacoby Brissett for this game. But still, I think the Colts can take this one with Brian Hoyer stepping in. Definitely going to be an interesting game. Hoyer's definitely a manageable quarterback to be able to come in here. I think Marlon Mack going to have a big day as the Colts win. Don't know if they'll actually cover, though. I think the Dolphins will hang in, but I still think it'll be a Colts win.
I'm taking the Colts as well. They still, they're still rolling. They did have a unfortunate loss last week, but this is the Dolphins we're talking about here.
Yeah,
they beat the Jets, but look at the Jets.
Yeah.
If you're Miami, they say they want to play Fitzpatrick because he gives them the best chance to win. That's politics. If they really wanted to tank well, they should be playing Rosen or, I don't know, the third string quarterback, whoever that might be.
Well, the thing I'm looking at either way, the Dolphins are already looking to next year because they had their GM, Chris Greer, and 2 scouts down at the LSU-Alabama game. So obviously they're already thinking about the future and not worrying too much about this season. So, I mean, if you get a win, yay. Doesn't matter. We're thinking of next season.
Yeah, I mean, they gotta tank harder if they want the number 1 pick.
Yeah,
so,
they gotta
they're not trying
harder.
hard enough. Right now,
they gotta get rid of the logo.
Right now, they're in third, I think, number 3, because you got the Bengals, the Jets, then the Dolphins.
That's right. So at the end of the day,
I think the Atlanta Falcons might have a tiebreaker with them. So they might be 3 or 4 right now. So I don't know. Anyway, but we're both taking the Colts. No questions asked here. Next game, we've got the Panthers 5-3 traveling to Green Bay, the 7-2 Packers. Packers favored -5. I'm taking the Panthers.
Random.
Another upset.
another upset, even after they announced that Cam Newton is done for the season and more than likely will not be returning next season.
Kyle Allen is a better quarterback for that system.
I absolutely agree, and I think Kyle Allen will be the quarterback of the future for at least right now for the Panthers, but I still don't think it's going to be enough to take on this great Packers team who's playing really good football and had some surprising losses, obviously, this season, but still has been able to put together a great 7-2 record, and you got Aaron Rodgers. Come on now.
For all of those big signings they made, the Green Bay Packers in the offseason, they still only have a defense that's ranked total number 27. It's still awful. The Carolina Panthers have a top 10 pass defense. And when you're talking about running the football, which is what the Panthers have been successfully doing all year behind Christian McCaffrey, guess what? The Packers, 24th in the league. Christian McCaffrey, that offense, they're going to limit their mistakes, and I think the Panthers improved to 6-3. They shock people. Not going to shock me, but they're going to shock the NFL, and they're going to go into Green Bay and win. It's going to be a close game, and the spread being 5, obviously Carolina's going to win, so the spread won't even matter.
Well, don't forget though, these NFC South teams do have troubles playing in the cold. We're going to be in the frozen tundra.
It's not that super cold up there yet.
It's going to be a 425 game. Oh, it's cold up there because you're going to be in the frozen tundra. You're in Wisconsin.
It's not snowing and it's not 10 degrees. I think they'll be okay. But that's where you rely. That's where you rely. If it's going to be that cold, you don't throw the ball as much. But you got Curtis Samuel and DJ Moore, guys that have been stepping up and playing much better than their expectations. I think that the way, the brand of style of football that they play is going to play into the weaknesses of the Packers, and I'm taking the Panthers on the road.
As of right now, it's 36 degrees in Green Bay. It's going to be...
it's like summer up there. What are you talking about?
It's going to be like 32 degrees, but 32 degrees is cold enough to freeze water, okay? It's going to be that temperature come game time.
Ask anybody in the Great Lakes. That is still shorts weather, my friend.
Okay, cool. That's great for them. That's not going to be that way for the Carolina Panthers.
It's going to be hotter on the field. That'll be fine. All right,
my
so
gosh,
why are you taking the Packers?
Because at the end of the day, I feel like the Packers offense is really going to show why they can do what they do. Aaron Rodgers is not a guy you can ever count out. He's that guy that completes those passes that have a statistical 2% or less chance of being completed. He's that guy that steps up in big time situations. And let's also not forget, the Panthers have been embarrassed multiple times this season when they have this great vaunted defense that has gotten torched by teams that have superior offenses. So at the end of the day, the Packers may not cover, but they are going to win this game.
Name one superior offense that they've gotten torched by.
San Francisco 49ers.
That was their defense that won them that game. Get the hell out of here with that. The whole reason that they're undefeated is because of their defense. Get out of here with that. Next game, we got the Rams 5-3 traveling to Pittsburgh 4-4. Rams are favored by 3.5. We're both taking the Rams in this game. This is really a tough pick for me. I could easily see the Steelers win this game.
Honestly, it was a tough pick for me as well because the Rams have been very inconsistent this season, especially with Robert Woods not being able to produce hardly whatsoever this season. Held to 2 touchdowns on the entire season. Of course, you still have Brandon Cooks and all the injury issues he's been having. Jared Goff has been inconsistent. The running game itself has also been a little bit lackluster, and at the end of the day, their defense, a lot of injuries and a lot of moves. So it's been a defense in flux. So I'm not completely sold that the Rams are going to win this one soundly, but I think they'll be able to squeak this one out against the Steelers.
And absolutely, I think they'll be just good enough to win this game, even though it's going to be tough traveling 3 time zones ahead. It's going to be a tough game. Steelers have been playing a little bit better now. They got Mason Rudolph back. They're still hobbled. They have no running backs.
Yeah.
They're depleted. They're basically picking people off the street.
I'm about to say, they can just take a Bill Belichick approach. Let's go to the nearest grocery store and find a bag boy.
It's fine, but
it all works out.
Last 2 games, we got the premier Sunday night game. 6-3 Vikings traveling to Jerry World to play the 5-3 Cowboys. Cowboys are favored by 3. You're taking the Vikings in this game.
I feel like with how the offense has progressed to this point, especially with Dalvin Cook getting moving and the passing game starting to bud and open up, and obviously the defense. The defense also is able to clamp down. They had a few times, though, where the pass offense looked a little suspect, or the pass defense, but either way, they've been able to hang in a lot of games and have been able to get to the 6-3 mark. The Cowboys, a lot of their wins have been against garbage opponents. With a couple exceptions, but I can't tout my own horn because they beat my team. So at the end of the day, the Cowboys are a team I don't feel we fully know what we're getting from week to week, as well as the distractions where Amari Cooper now is trying to push his contract talks off till the end of the season. You're still having to deal with Dak Prescott and his contract because obviously he wants the freaking world, but I feel like doesn't deserve it at this point given how he's played in these past few games. Opened up great against garbage opponents, but I don't feel he's all there yet. But
Wentz.
I honestly, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, I feel he does deserve a little bit more than Wentz. However, I don't think he's a $40 million a year quarterback either. So
right place, right time.
I mean, when you have a great offensive line and Ezekiel Elliott standing behind you.
Yeah, this game is one of the reasons why we like the premier matchups, because this NFL should do this every week.
They should.
The Sunday night game, the Monday night game, great matchups, great teams. This game, both teams desperately need a win to either stay in the race if you're the Minnesota Vikings,
yes,
or you need to take a stranglehold of the NFC East if you're the Cowboys.
Yeah, because don't forget the Eagles are 5-4 right now and nipping right at those heels.
This game, to me, just feels like it's got that big fight feel, that big game feel for the Dallas Cowboys. Guess who plays well in primetime games? Dak Prescott, your favorite player in the NFL. He's going to, yeah, absolutely. By the way, Dallas, their defense, both against the run and the pass, top 10 in the league. So they're going. I think they're going to limit Dalvin Cook enough. He could still have a big game and have a couple touchdowns, 100 yards, whatever.
I mean,
but Kirk Cousins is what I'm worried about. Kirk Cousins in that offense, he's been hot the last couple weeks, but you know what we've seen out of Kirk Cousins in the last few years. He's very inconsistent.
And you're still going to be without Adam Thielen as well. So
yeah, and you're without Adam Thielen. With that, all they got to do is you just got to bottle up Stephon Diggs. And then what other weapons do you have on that offense outside of Cook and Diggs?
You want to say they
Zero.
show up? You want to say they show up in prime time? They lost to the Jets in prime time. The Jets' only win was against the Cowboys. So I can't say that the Cowboys always show up in prime time. They lost to the Packers. Now that wasn't necessarily a prime time.
If I'm not mistaken,
the Saints too.
If I'm not mistaken, Prescott is 8-1 in primetime games in his career.
And what was that one this season to the Jets?
You can't be undefeated. You can't be great like Tom Brady, okay?
Oh, no, I'm not saying that, but at least Tom Brady lost to the Ravens, but the Cowboys lost to the Jets.
But I'm taking the Cowboys
lost to the
in this
Dolphins,
game.
which makes the Dolphins the best team in the NFL.
Yeah, did you see that? That's great.
I love that. I love that too.
Great. But I think the Cowboys top 10 in rush and pass on defense. I think this has got a big game feel. Like this is just to me is a game that you feel like the Cowboys are going to win it. They have to win it.
Well, I kind of feel a little differently, but big game feel nonetheless. Because this game is going to be important for both teams, like you said earlier. So we'll definitely see how this one shakes out. It's going to be close no matter what. But looking at our Monday night game on ESPN at 8:15, the Seattle Seahawks at 7-2 travel down to San Francisco to take on the undefeated 49ers, who are favored by 6 in this game and are playing great football. However, the 49ers have struggled with some teams as of late, a la the Cardinals. So definitely going to be an interesting matchup. We both have the 49ers in this one. What makes you have them going over the Seahawks?
This is tough. This
was the hardest pick.
This is the hardest game for me to pick, but because of the fact that yes, it's in San Francisco and they are undefeated. It's a Monday night game. I picked the 49ers because I think their defense, they have the best defense in the NFL, the best pass defense in the NFL.
Absolutely.
But look at what Russell Wilson's done with nothing around him. He is right now, I think, the MVP of the league.
Absolutely.
Absolutely the MVP of the league.
Absolutely.
And because of that, I'm picking the 49ers, but I have a feeling the Seahawks could win. They're going to win this game.
And let's keep in mind the small little tagline that Josh Gordon might make his debut in this game. And now you got Tyler Lockett, DK Metcalf, and Josh Gordon to throw to. And Chris Carson in the backfield.
I was going to say, don't think about Chris Carson too.
Yeah.
I mean, being the Seahawks, they've played in a lot of big games already this year. They've played much better than their expectations. A lot of us, ourselves included, thought they were going to take a step back this year and not be sitting at 7-2 through 9 games.
No, we're looking at 10-6 at best.
Yeah, we're looking at 9-7, 10-6 in our things, but 7-2. This game does have a feeling like Seattle could go on the road and steal this game.
I could see it absolutely happen. I think this game, 6 points, it's going to be probably a 1, 2, 3 point game at best. This game is going to be absolutely exciting. And it's going to take some magic.
I can't wait for this game. I really can't. This is going to be a lot of fun. This is going to be a great week of football. Get started roughly in about 40 minutes. It's going to be great. I'm excited. I can't wait.
Yeah, I can't either, but we have to play the light bill at this point. That way we can get the rest of this episode done so we can go watch that game. So definitely make sure that you join us. We'll be right back.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/Sports Sanity Customs. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3Count Design for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel and more. Visit DemoBlastStudios.com. Visit Demo Blast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
And we are back here on Final Score with Chris and Craig, and we're live here on Facebook Live. Thank you so much for joining us at PCN Final Score on Facebook. Definitely make sure you give us a like, check mark for those notifications. That way you can know when we go live and you never miss us.
Like, follow, share, rate us. Tell us how you think we're doing. Obviously, we're still very young in the process. We only had 36 episodes now.
Hey, this is episode 35, sir.
35. I'm ahead of my time apparently. But we're trying to make it better. We want to have fun with the fans and everything.
Yeah.
So please let us know how we're doing. And the only way we can grow is by sharing with your friends, other sports fans. Hell, even sharing with Arkansas fans that we just took a crap all over. So I'm sorry about that, but I mean, that's the only way we're gonna grow. We're gonna have some fun along the way. So, please take a minute, like, share, subscribe, rate us. We would really appreciate it.
Yeah, most definitely, because we try to put in a lot of hard work with everything we do with this show, and we try to bring the very, very best. So we like to know how we're doing so we can try and bring you an even better show, because that's how we do things. We like to be proactive.
We try to do this along with our actual day jobs, paying day jobs.
And I have kids.
Yes, you do.
I have a buttload of kids.
A crap load, yes. But let's get in some NHL.
Let's do it. We can jump right into that, Joker.
For the hockey fans out there.
Oh, yeah. It's going to be exciting. There's been a lot of crazy things that have been happening. Some power rankings have been released. A lot of craziness going on.
Yeah, great.
Really exciting.
Great start to the season. Sports Illustrated released their latest weekly power rankings on Wednesday. And we just want to highlight a couple of teams on here. Just rattle off the top 10. Of course, starting at the bottom, my Detroit Red Wings are number 30 on this list. But the expectation is progress and patience. We are right now at 30. There's a clear talent gap between the top 3 or 4 players on this team and the rest of it. So it's going to take some time. No surprise that the Red Wings are 30.
Yeah, for my Flyers, though, it's not as. I mean, it's prettier than your picture, but
right,
still not as pretty as we would like, because the Flyers are now sitting 7-5-2 and 21 in these power rankings. Expectation being that we're trying to get back in the playoffs. That's been our expectation for a while now, because it wasn't too long ago we made a berth into the Stanley Cup final, but now here we are doing what? Firing our head coach, finding GMs, and trying to bring in some new talent. But we definitely brought in some, and we're trying to find some footing with our second-year goalie, Carter Hart, who's been playing pretty well. Our defense hasn't been horrific for us, so we'll definitely see what happens. But let's not forget that we have a lot of change when it comes to our defensive men. That's been a real big change, especially bringing in the draft pick that we had. Very proud of.
Oh, yeah.
So,
great pick. That was a great pick.
Yeah, it was a great pick. So we'll definitely see how a lot of things work out. But I want to see
but you're climbing.
a lot more scoring.
Climbing.
We're getting there.
You have a winning record this year.
Dare I say we're rowing the boat?
Hey, don't take PJ Flex stuff. No.
Hey, if it works, sir, we can cross-platform this.
I don't think so.
Row the boat.
But one of the other teams we got to highlight is the hometown team, the Tampa Bay Lightning, which they had huge expectations this year. Of course, getting embarrassed last year in the playoffs, but they're off to a rough start.
They swept to the Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah, they swept everyone to the Stanley Cup, right?
Yeah,
that's what you said.
Oh, no, wait, they got swept. There we go.
See, that's all it was.
Classic misconception.
But Tampa Bay falls to 16 in this power ranking from SI, and they're really. I mean, their penalty kill is just awful right now. Their penalty kill is not great. It's dropped nearly 12 points since last season, and the offense can't get a string of good games going. They're really struggling right now.
Yeah, it's a night and day look from what they had last year when they were just flat out dominating teams. This year, where they're not really scaring anybody. They're really just kind of trugging along, barely at this point. 6-5-2 mark. Not very impressive. Not very impressive.
Not really impressive at all. But those are the hot teams we want to highlight. We're going to rattle through the top 10 here very quickly.
Let's rattle it.
Just so you can have an idea of where your team may or may not stand in the NHL according to SI. Number 10, the Colorado Avalanche. They were number 2 in the last previous power ranking. Fallen a little bit, but they've had such a hot start to the year.
Oh, yeah, definitely have. And it's been very interesting to see how they've been playing. They've been absolutely just killing it in a lot of games, but their depth is going to be tested along the stretch without 2 of their stars now being out. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how they respond to adversity, see if they can keep things going.
At number 9, we got the Vegas Golden Knights. They were 8 previously in last week's power rankings from SI, but they're sitting at number 9. They're at 9-5-2 as of the power rankings. They want to try to get back to the Western Conference Finals. They've had a really good run as such a young franchise.
Oh yeah, the first 2 seasons are absolutely dominant, and then the very first year they made it all the way to the Stanley Cup final, losing in dramatic fashion.
God, that was a tough final to watch because I wanted to see Ovechkin win it, which he did.
Yes.
But I mean, how good of a story is that? The first year team
as an expansion team
makes and then wins the Stanley Cup. That would have been a great story.
Oh, that would have been a great story.
But they're off to a pretty good start again this year. They're sitting at number 9 in the power rankings.
Yeah, definitely are at 9-5-2. So definitely see what they have going on. But they're definitely going to have to try and rely on a lot of their star power because they're just not the dominant possession team that they used to be. And at home, not quite as great either. So we'll definitely see how it goes going forward. But our number 8 team, though, the Vancouver Canucks, at 9-3-3, previously number 11 on this list, so definitely making some rises here, is that they want to try and get rebuilding and build upon what they have right now because Vancouver has been a team that's been kind of in mediocrity for a while. So definitely want to see them try and build upon that.
Yeah, absolutely. They're off to a really hot start. They were 9-3-3 as of this power ranking, but not a lot of expectations coming into the year. Again, we're talking about the rebuilding, but it looks like they're a little bit more ahead of schedule than they initially had thought. So that's great for that city and for that team, for them to kind of be a little bit ahead of schedule in their progress.
Absolutely. And then looking at number 7, our defending... No, I'm not even going to do all the Paul Heyman stuff. Anyways, the St. Louis Blues are defending Stanley Cup champions who were previously number 15 on this list because they started out extremely poorly and started just making a nice rise all the way through, and now are 10-3-3, trying to avoid that Stanley Cup hangover, and you never want to try and have that. They've been playing some great hockey as of late, but they've been able to have their sophomore player, Jordan Binnington, avoid that slump, but injuries we know could always be the tale of a season, especially now with Vladimir Tarasenko's injury and him now being sidelined for some time.
Yeah, and you had mentioned last week on the show up to 5 months he could be out.
Up to 5 months.
Which is huge. But yeah, Jordan Binnington, the hot play that he had last year as a first-year goalie in the NHL, it's good for them to see that he hasn't hit that sophomore slump that you mentioned. So really promising for Blues fans this year.
Yes.
Number 6, we got the Nashville Predators, my dark horse pick for the Stanley Cup. I went way out of left field with that one, but I'm confident in them.
You're looking smart right now, though, because I had a 9-4-2 mark. Still staying at number 6 in these power rankings are showing that even though they got rid of PK, that they can still make things happen.
I mean, Matt Duchene has really added some depth, and they've got a really high scoring team now. They're second highest scoring team in the league. So I mean, at 9-4-2, they stand pat at number 6, and they really have improved on offense, which is something they really wanted to do in the offseason. So far so good.
So far so good. Predators definitely trying to make some noise. But looking at our number 5, the Carolina Hurricanes, who were another surprise pick, rising from number 7 to number 5 in these rankings, 9-5-1 as the release of these rankings, and even without Justin Falk and Justin Williams. Without Justin Falk, Justin Williams, and Calvin DeHaan, the Hurricanes haven't missed a step and have been able to show that they still have a powerful offense and that they can make noise. Defense, though, is something I've been worried about. They have let up some scores this year.
Yeah, one of the best home crowds in the NHL. I mean, some of the stuff they do after games is great for fan interaction, all that kind of stuff. But they've haven't missed a step, as you mentioned, and so kind of surprising losing all those players. And you kind of expect them to take a step back, but hey, they're still just trucking and still trying to replicate last season's success.
Yeah, they still have a +3 score differential, so there's something, like I said, defensively they're still going to have to build upon. One thing you have to worry about, though, 3-6-1 in their last 4, so we'll definitely see how everything works out from there. But looking at our number 4 team, the New York Islanders. Now, this is a team, they rose from number 9 to number 4, are currently 11-3-0, and New York Islanders played out of their mind last year, really just shaving off all these years of mediocrity, really resting on their laurels, if you will. And now they're trying to prove that last year was not a fluke.
Yeah, and as of right now, they are 9-0-1 in their last 10, and they're just, I mean, they're doing really, really well. I was not expecting them to play as well as they have this year, but 11-3-0 as of these power rankings, sitting at number 4. That's off to a great start for Islanders fans.
Absolutely, and Matthew Barzal has been an instrumental part of that. He's arguably their best player, and just needs to continue what he's been doing, especially in support of Barry Trotz, who's been their best defensive player. So Islanders might have to actually watch out. They might have to try to bring a Stanley Cup back to New York.
You mean head coach Barry Trotz?
Sorry, whatever.
That's cool.
Defensive shell.
It's cool, man.
It's hockey, man.
Whatever.
You take a couple hits, you never know what's going on. At number 3, though, the Edmonton Oilers, who've also been playing really great with Connor McDavid, who's been a huge part of their team for some time now, but also Leon Draisaitl, who's come in and really been playing well, got them to a 10-4-2 record. Oilers might actually be able to do something.
Well, we knew they had the talent, and that's one of the teams that we had mentioned to watch out for this year, because if they can get on the same page and kind of be able to play a little bit of defense, they're doing what we kind of expected them to do if they could put it all together. And they're off to a really hot start, as we mentioned. But, you know, if these two guys, McDavid and, would you say Draisaitl?
Draisaitl.
Mm-hmm. Somebody can confirm that for us,
please.
But these two guys are the best scoring duo in the NHL right now. There's no question about that. And they're off to a hot start, 10-4-2, number 3 in the power rankings.
Yeah, definitely see how that all ends up shaking out. Goaltending, I know, is still an issue for them as well, so definitely something to watch out for going forward. But at number 2, the Washington Capitals, who we mentioned earlier, now sporting an 11-2-3 record as of these power rankings, rose from number 4 to number 2. They need to make sure they keep things rolling because we want to make sure that we don't have a lot of crazy things like what happened with the Nationals and their little fan base. Did you see that big old boy going ahead and getting that slip and slide action going?
Absolutely.
Right on the dugout.
I mean, I know Ovechkin just wants to replicate his just blur of a month after they won the Stanley Cup because, you know, he doesn't probably remember much of it. But
oh my goodness.
But I mean, coming in at number 2, they want to try to win that Metro division. They want to replicate that success, get back to the Stanley Cup finals. But, I mean, they've got a tough division, and one of those teams they might have to go through is the number one team in the power rankings, which is the Boston Bruins, 11-2-2 as of the power rankings.
Yeah, but absolutely playing out of their mind and showing why their franchise has been a premier franchise for some time now. The Bruins have been absolutely killing it. Like you said, 11-2-2, still leading these power rankings, and it's just been great to see the type of success that they've been able to keep sustained.
Yeah.
Because that's hard to do in these kind of leagues.
Yeah, and Pasternak was one of the 3 stars of the month of October for the NHL. So having them get in, him and Brad Marchand first and second in points, 30 and 28 respectively. I mean, this team, as long as Father Time doesn't come knocking on their door, I mean, who knows who knows how long they could keep this going.
And let's also not forget Tuukka Rask, who has a .936 save percentage. That is absolutely insane to be able to stop that amount of goals, and they've been playing absolutely great hockey, plus 18 score differential, so definitely still making it happen. Yeah, just like you said, though, as long as Father Time doesn't come a knocking, you keep a scoring. Yeah,
and looking at these updated standings, talking about those Boston Bruins, they're second in the league in goals against. Only allowing 40 in that 18 goal differential that you mentioned. They're sitting at 24 points, but right on their heels, the Leafs at 22 points, the Canadiens at 21, and the Sabres at 20.
So tight.
Don't forget, the Panthers right behind them at 19.
I mean, you want to keep it going. Lightning at 18.
Basically, everyone's still in it except for the Senators and the Red Wings.
This is what you get when you're early on in the season. But Detroit, that's just bad. Negative 31 score differential. We won't even talk about that. But looking at the Metropolitan, Capitals still running with it. Now 13-2-3, 9-0-1 in their last 10. 6-game winning streak. Absolutely making it happen. Playing absolutely amazing on the road, at home. Doesn't matter. Capitals keep winning.
Yeah, and they're starting to pull away already in that Metro division. Already up 4 points over the Islanders, who are at 25 points. And then the gap from there just keeps getting more and more large. You got the Penguins at 21, Flyers at 20, sitting at fourth place. Hurricanes, man, they lost 4 straight, and they're sitting at 19 points. They got to be careful because they're on a little bit of a skid, but a lot of season left.
Yeah, definitely a lot of season left, and definitely a lot that could happen. The Rangers and the Blue Jackets, and some more surprisingly, the Devils all down there looking just not good right now. But switching over to the Western Conference, St. Louis Blues are defending Stanley Cup champions, 12-3-3, looking great in 9-1 in their last 10, and a 7-game winning streak.
Yeah, 7-game win streak is
27
huge.
points.
Yeah, right behind them, 5 points behind the Avalanche. We knew how young and how talented they are. They've really kept things going. The Predators sitting there right behind them at 21 points. They've been playing well. 65 goals on the year. That's up there.
That is definitely up there. Definitely one of the tops, if not the top in the league. Behind, I know the Capitals have 74, so
yeah,
they're playing out of their mind. So we'll definitely see what happens. Nashville's been very surprising this year. Winnipeg Jets right behind them. Kind of that bubble team too. We've been saying, maybe keep an eye on Winnipeg, but Winnipeg's going to have to prove a lot more if they're going to try and get back into this as well.
Yeah, their defense is struggles quite a bit. So
yes,
that's what they really need to shore up in the offseason was their defense. That's going to be their big question mark, whether they can make the playoffs or not.
Definitely.
The Dallas Stars at 17 on a 4-game win streak, 7-3 in their last 10. And then the Blackhawks and Wild bringing up the rear, 14 and 13 points respectively. But if you're within these organizations, you already know both are in rebuilding phases.
Yep.
So not really much surprise there.
Definitely no surprise there. Looking over at the Pacific Division, Edmonton Oilers, unsurprisingly, leading this division behind the great play, like we said earlier, of DeSitis and Connor McDavid. But playing absolutely great hockey now with a +6 score differential. 4-4-2 in their last 10, though. So definitely something to kind of keep an eye on now that they're 11-5-2. But still, 1-point lead over Calgary to take the lead in the Pacific.
Yeah, and the Flames, you saw what they did last year and how they kind of really were the front runner of that division,
right,
and had that postseason flop. But they're off to another hot start here as well, 23 points. Then the Canucks and Knights tied at 21 points.
Oh, yeah.
But both of those teams on a couple-game losing streaks.
Oh, yeah, they're
hitting this part of the season.
Yeah, they're hitting little skids right now, but the thing I see that's a big difference between the two teams, Vegas Golden Knights +1 score differential, Vancouver Canucks +12. So definitely Vancouver is getting it done where they need to. Definitely going to see, is Vegas on a little bit of a slide? We're going to see them maybe drop down in these standings a little bit?
They're too talented to not make the playoffs. There's just no, there's no reason why they would miss the playoffs because I mean, they're just too talented. Only if they struggle with goaltending. Marc-Andre Fleury is getting up there in age, but they're rotating their goalies through. They just need consistent goaltending play.
This is true,
and you got that's really what you're looking for at this point in the season.
Oh, definitely. And nipping right at their heels with 20 points, the Arizona Coyotes 9-6-2. Trying to make it happen, but they're on a 3-game losing streak themselves, followed by the Anaheim Ducks, who surprisingly have not been playing all that great. Also, just 1 point behind Arizona with 19 points, lost their last 2. So definitely some interesting play, but the big surprise for how bad they are, San Jose 7-10-1, but are out of last place now.
They're out of the cellar. Woo!
Because of a 3-game winning streak, but the LA Kings 3-game losing streak, so that probably helped.
Well, you knew the Kings were going to be down at the bottom of this division. And one of the worst teams in the league this year. But the Sharks, we mentioned the last couple shows how surprising their start has been. Maybe they're finally starting to turn things around a little bit with that 3-game win streak, but they're still only 4-5-1 their last 10, so they still got a ways to go. But like we said, there's a lot of season. Plenty of stuff could happen.
Yeah, definitely going to see how it all is going to work out. But hockey has just been absolutely crazy this year, so we'll definitely see how it's all going to shake out. Still a lot of season left.
Lots of season.
But with all these rankings, people need to let us know if they agree, disagree. Why don't you hit us up? Because, we got all these social media outlets like Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, at PCN Final Score. Drop us a line. Or, hey, if you're watching us, leave some right here in the comments. I try to talk to you guys while we do this, at least for how much attention
He tries not to multitask too much. And
I try not to. I try to keep it in reason. I try. Not always guaranteed.
Then he forgets how to English, and, it's cool.
Englishing? What's that? Oh, English. Yeah, that thing.
Yeah, English.
But looking at our next one, any big news right now in NHL? I don't think we have really much of anything this week.
Not necessarily. I mean, it's just
we're still early in the
power
season.
Rankings. We're still really early in the season. Of course, Tarasenko's injury. We talked about that last week. So
let's not forget NBA news. There's a lot of things happening in the NBA. What do we got?
But moving on the NBA. The NBA.com power rankings came out a few days ago, and really just got to point out the fact that the my Pistons are in the middle of the pack, but for some reason they are still winning a few games here and there. But
Blake Griffin finally made his season debut after the injuries he was dealing with, so that's at least a positive sign, right?
Andre Drummond's having a monster year, but the problem with him is he's not consistent. They're sitting at number 16 in the power rankings this week. They're sitting at 3 and 4, but their efficiency ratings are right in the middle of the pack. Mm-hmm. But they got a couple of games this week that should be winnable. You got Washington, the Knicks, and the Pacers.
Well, the my Orlando Magic, are currently sitting at 19. Not looking all that great. 2-4 as of this release. I think they're up to 2-7 now. The problem that they've been having is that they just can't close out games. They've been able to hang around in all these games that they've been in with only 1 or 2 exceptions, but just can't get the job done. Hung around with the Nuggets. Nuggets end up winning. That was one of their more recent ones. Very frustrating season so far, but we'll definitely see how it all ends up shaking out. So much basketball left. It's a long season, but they're not looking that great when it comes to being on pace for their points per game and points against. Looking right near the bottom of the pack. But Markelle Fultz has started to show that he can play some ball, but maybe not quite to the level where Magic fans want.
Or just his draft position expectations, really. That's what you're looking at when you look at Markelle Fultz.
Well, we didn't draft him. We just traded for him.
He's just been a bust so far. It's no big deal. But looking at the top 10, at number 10, we've got the Toronto Raptors. And, they're in the better half of the league as far as a lot of different categories, as far as pace, offensive rating, defensive rating, and their net rating. But doesn't look like much of a hangover for them. They're off to, as of these power rankings, off to a 4-2 start.
One issue that they are having, though, is Pascal Siakam is dealing with a broken finger, but he's seemingly going to be able to kind of bounce back from that pretty quickly. So definitely still keep an eye out for the defending NBA champions. They're going to be able to make some noise. Like you said, they're still an efficient team, still being able to make things happen. So we'll see how all that ends up shaking out. But surprisingly, at number 9, the Dallas Mavericks.
Watch out.
Watch out for the Mavericks. They're looking real good with the new number 1 offense in the NBA. Top 10 rankings and effective field goal percentage, free throws made, or free-throw rate, I should say, turnover percentage, and offensive rebounding percentage. All Dallas Mavs. Dallas has been able to make it look good and been winning often.
And this is really what the Mavs have wanted to see. As soon as they traded for Kristaps Porzingis and then drafted Luka Doncic, you knew
huge addition.
Luka Doncic already is one of the top 10 best players in the NBA, in my opinion. I mean, even though he was a rookie last year, but he's just that next generation of guys that are going to help propel the league moving forward. But the Mavs defense hasn't been very good. But I mean, when you can score and as long as you can win games, that's what matters until you get to playoff time. But we're a long ways off from that.
Yeah, definitely going to be a little bit before we get to that point. But looking at our next team at number 8, the Denver Nuggets, who take a little bit of a spill after being number 2 last week, currently 4-2, but offensively, defensively, very middle of the pack when you look at it, winning very close games. I know they had to, like I said earlier with the Magic, they had to squeak one out to be able to win that one. So definitely some bad defensive performances lately. Letting teams just hang around, not good.
Yeah, letting teams just hang around is not a good recipe to win games in the NBA. But they're going to have a really rough season, I think, as far as because you're trying to make a statement that last year was not a fluke.
Oh yeah.
And so far, they were 4-2 as of the rankings, but even now they're still leading that Northwest Division in the Western Conference. They're still the class of that conference. They still got. Still got Nikola Jokic, who's going to make a bid for MVP this year. But they got some tough games coming up.
They definitely do have some tough games coming up, so it's definitely going to be something to kind of watch out for because how they perform in those games could really show what kind of team they have and what their true identity is. But looking at our next team at number 7, we have the Minnesota Timberwolves, who slide a couple spots down from number 5, 4-1 as of these rankings. Not looking too bad defensively, top 10 defensively, but offensively very middle of the road. So definitely something to kind of keep an eye out on. Timberwolves, though, lost a couple interesting games, but also have won some big ones, too. So definitely going to see where we get going forward with this team.
Yeah, they got that new style, and they're second in the league in pace of play at 108.3. So, I mean, they're getting up and down the court. They're going to suffer a little bit on offense because of it, you would imagine, but they have the league's third best improvement on defense.
Absolutely.
And you got to look at without Karl Anthony Towns and how he's been playing, and that team is off to a very surprising start. Not a lot of people expected that, especially with all the transition they've been going through.
Yeah, it's been so much that they've been trying to transition through, so it's definitely been kind of surprising to see how things have shucken out. So definitely see how it all goes going forward.
Number 6, we got the Milwaukee Bucks, who are sitting at 3rd in the offense category. I mean, you got Giannis Antetokounmpo, who has been playing so well. He was off to such a hot start this year, and I mean, his game is only getting better from the reigning MVP of the league. Yeah,
absolutely, especially after seeing how he performed in the FIBA World Cup. A lot of people had a lot of question marks. Is Giannis really the kind of player we think he is? But you know what all it took? You just got to get back with your team, man, and get playing basketball. And that's what they did. And that's how they've been able to get to this point where they are and show that maybe last year wasn't that much of a fluke and Giannis really is that good of a player.
Well, they're going to be, one of the better teams in the NBA just because of how dominant Giannis is and how some of these other role players on this team have been playing throughout the course of this season. And we know they're easily going to win the Central. There's no questions about that. There's no other team even close to them talent-wise. I mean, the Pacers, the Pistons, not really. So no surprise there. What they really need to focus on is extending Giannis's game so that he can shoot a little further out. Because once it comes playoff time, you're not going to run into Kawhi Leonard anymore. So what you're really looking for is you're just trying to develop his game so that way he can be even dominant at when it comes playoff time.
Well, the big thing you got to look at, too, is you're going to be able to get through the Boston Celtics, who've been a very, very good team this year as well, especially behind the play of Kemba Walker. So it's definitely going to be something to watch out for going forward.
Yep. Top 5, Miami Heat.
From 13 to 5.
They have jumped up quite a bit. They were 5-1 as of this power ranking, but I mean, looking at their ratings, they have the best net rating in the league at a positive 10. They have the 4th best defensive rating team in the league, and they're top 10 in offense. And no, it's all thanks to Jimmy Butler.
Absolutely. He's averaged less than 15 points, though, in his 3 games, and the Heat have yet to need him down the stretch, though, of the fourth quarter. It's because they're outscoring their opponents by more than 30 points per 100 possessions in his 93 minutes on the floor. So definitely watch out. The Miami Heat, we said this in our preview show, the Heat with Jimmy Butler are definitely going to be a team to watch out for, and could be one not only to challenge for their division, but could make a push towards the Eastern Conference Finals.
Finally, maybe they're taking that next turn forward, the turn in the corner,
right.
And you know how Eric Spoelstra preaches defense.
Absolutely.
And having a scorer like Jimmy Butler on your team, don't forget they got Myers Leonard in the offseason. They got rid of Hassan Whiteside, thankfully, because he was just not good for their locker room. But they're a much better team now because of the losses of essentially D Wade and Hassan Whiteside, but bringing in guys like Jimmy Butler and the rookie Tyler Hero, who I think is going to be a dark horse rookie of the year candidate.
Absolutely,
playing really well so far for the hot start for the Miami Heat.
Most definitely, and they got a lot of decent games coming up too. So we'll definitely be able to see what kind of team we have going forward, because I think Miami Heat definitely are going to be able to contend. But at number 4, we have the Boston Celtics rising up from number 10, 4-1 as of these power rankings. Not looking too shabby defensively, top 10, but offensively only 14. Probably expecting a little bit more given the great play of Kemba Walker, Gordon Hayward, Jason Tatum. So, but they do play great defense, also because of those same people. So we'll definitely see what we have going forward.
Gordon Hayward had probably his best game earlier this week since his injury, and I think he's finally there physically. It's just he's got to get there mentally. So if he can have more games like the one he had this last week. I think that team, and like I said, that was my team out of the East to come out and make the NBA Finals, just because I think that subtracting Kyrie Irving and adding in Kemba Walker, along with your Jason Tatums, your Jaylen Browns, and then you've got maybe Gordon Hayward finally getting back to his old self. Hopefully. I think this team's going to be very dangerous.
Definitely could be, and it's definitely going to be something to watch out for. Obviously, a lot of changeover with Boston with a lot of departures. They try to move this team and always try to center around a young core. They always want to try and grow. Let's not forget, though, and I know you're going to say what you're going to say. He's probably only going to appear in 10 games this year, but Taco Fall, that guy's playing great, too, for a little bit. He does get he hasn't played anything for the Celtics yet this year, but
he's not even on the roster.
Not right now. He's playing with their little minor or little G League team.
Yeah.
But it's okay because he's going to end up being brought up. I'm just saying, when you have a guy who's, 7'7", you can't train or you can't teach a guy 7'7".
But you can teach quickness and what he does not have.
But if he just jumps 1 foot, he has 18 inches above the rim. Try and stop that. Try and shoot on that. Go ahead. He's not going to have to worry about goaltending. He'll just grab the ball and just throw it back in your face.
All you got to do is just pull him away from the basket, and it's fine. You're not going to have any issues with that. He is quicker. He is very quick for his size. I'll give you that.
Yes.
He'll play a 10-day contract. He'll play like 4 or 5 games on it, and then there you go. That'll be your NBA career.
Wow. No faith.
Not really. Not guys that big don't last. They don't last.
They don't need to last, but in the small amount of time they're there, if they play good, they can make things happen.
It would be great. It would be great for UCF to see him and be successful and all that kind of stuff. But let's be realistic here. Guys that are that big are not meant to be able to be that physically demanding, in that kind of a sport. It just doesn't happen for that long. So.
That's true. But someone who's not quite as big physically, but is in his play. That's LeBron James, who's been playing out of his mind for the LA Lakers, who rise from 6 to 3 in these rankings. The Lakers, after that opening game loss to the Clippers, have played literally out of their mind. Dwight Howard's played well. LeBron James has played well. Anthony Davis had a few little hampering injuries, but even he's played decent. It's been a very interesting season so far for the Lakers.
LeBron James loves to have veterans around him that have played in the NBA. They know they know what to expect. They've been through everything, and he plays better because of it. He's actually playing defense again. It's great.
Oh yeah, to help the Lakers to the number 1 overall defensive rating, only allowing 96.3 points a game.
Yeah, and you had mentioned this guy's name. I had mentioned him as the comeback player of the year, the most improved player, whatever award you want to give him for that. Dwight Howard is off to a hot start. As of this power ranking, he was 79% from the field, 19 of 24. Sick. And the LA offense plays better because when he's on the floor, because all they really need him to do is to do what he's always done, which is play defense, rebound, run the pick and roll, run to the rim, we'll throw it up for you. And he doesn't have to be the number one guy like he had to be in Orlando.
Yeah,
sorry.
please
yeah,
don't mix those two.
And then the first stint in LA when he thought he was going to be Shaq. You're not that talented. So he's kind of returning to his roots, and I think that's why he's going to be one of the most improved players of the year.
Yeah, he also ranks second in the league behind, obviously, Kawhi Leonard in total plus-minus at plus 67, 128 total minutes. So it's great to see the chemistry this team has right now. And are the Lakers back?
I already called them my NBA champs. So we did this in the preview show.
We did. I know. It just surprises me every time you say it.
In the NBA Finals, and the Lakers are going to win. LeBron's going to be back on top, and he's probably going to win MVP of the NBA Finals.
I hate to say this, you might be right. But looking at it, number 2, the
They're
LA
staying
Clippers.
in LA.
Oh man, LA Clippers. Last week were number 3, now rise to number 2, 5-2 as of the release of this. Number 2 offense at 112 points a game. I've been playing really great defense, but having little issues here and there, though, where they can't necessarily get things done after that great opening day win. Definitely going to see what's going to go on down the stretch.
A lot of load management games for Kawhi Leonard this year.
Back-to-back, even.
Yeah, and so on the back-to-backs, they've already said that Kawhi Leonard will not play both games of a back-to-back all season. Mm-hmm. They've already made that clear to the NBA and to everyone. So no real surprise there. They're waiting. They're playing the long game. They're waiting for the playoffs, and he's got what I think it was. He ranks 92nd in minutes played in the NBA during the season, but he's number 1 in the playoffs. Number 1 in minutes played in the postseason. So that's what they're playing for. But they're missing still Paul George, who just finally is starting to get back into practice. So, I mean, they're not even at full strength right now, the LA Clippers. So they are going to probably be everyone's favorites to make it to the NBA Finals and win the championship. But they're off to a hot start because they already were a good team. Now you add in Kawhi, add in Paul George. This team's going to be pretty tough to beat.
Yeah, definitely going to be very, very interesting. So we'll see it as we go. But the number 1 ranking, the number 1 team was last week, is this week, and that's none other than the Philadelphia 76ers. As of the release of this, they were 5-0.
Have since lost 3 straight games.
And have since lost 3 straight games. The 76ers looked really great coming out, but like you said, once they hit those 3 straight games, it seemed to be like a domino effect.
Well, this team is built defensively. They're one of the best defensive teams on paper, and that's why everyone likes them as favorites in the East. And I just don't see the offense. I mean, yeah, they're ranked 12 in the NBA as of the power rankings, but I mean, you got to look at until Ben Simmons can actually consistently hit threes and they can find another go-to scorer, because Jimmy Butler's out the door. JJ Redick's out the door.
Yep.
You've got no scoring
That's
go-to
inside
guy
and outside scoring right there.
Unless you go through Joel Embiid, which you've got to make sure that he stays on the block, doesn't stray away out to 3, and he likes to take threes, because I don't know what he's just. I like his little quips back and forth. His personality is one thing, but I mean, he had that fight with Karl Anthony Towns we talked about last week.
Oh yeah, that was interesting to say the least.
But a lot of it is just his attitude and how he approaches these games and how he approaches his opponents. Like, he's quickly becoming one of the most hated players in the NBA.
Yeah, very quickly. It's definitely going to be something he's going to have to keep reeled in, or it's going to end up becoming a much larger issue because you have to be able, as a professional, to be able to keep your cool in these types of situations. You can't just let your emotions get the better of you. That's the mark of a true professional and of a truly great player, is being able to withstand any type of pressure, any type of situation, and be able to play on through. So we'll definitely see how a lot of that's going to shake out.
Yeah, we'll see. But updating the current standings, we got Boston and the Eastern Conference in the top spot of the East at 7-1. They're sitting at first in their division. Right behind them, the Raptors 6-2, and then Philly, we talked about, lost 3 straight. They're 2 games back already early in the Atlantic Division.
Yeah, this whole Eastern Conference is definitely going to be interesting. Obviously, with Kawhi Leonard departing to go to the West Coast. But the Boston Celtics are going to be without Gordon Hayward, it looks like, for a while after he broke his hand in a loss to the Spurs. Yep. So it's definitely going to be something to watch out for the Celtics moving forward. But still, on a great winning streak, 7 games. But still, you got to watch out. Yeah,
you got to hope that he's not out for too long. But it's just, unfortunately, another setback for him. You know, he had one of those big games last week, and you're thinking he's gonna turn the corner, and then another injury comes up. It's unfortunate for him.
Yeah, it's very unfortunate. But like you said, Toronto at number 2 still showing that they can make things happen. Have a matchup with the Clippers coming up in not too much longer. Definitely going to be interesting. I know Kawhi Leonard is very excited for that matchup. Heat sitting at number 3, tied with the Milwaukee Bucks, who are sitting there as well. Both 1.5 games back, both on 1-game losing streaks.
Yeah, and then you're looking at number 4, the Milwaukee Bucks at 6-3. Number 5, the 76ers at 5-3. Pacers are still sitting there in the top 8. They're at 5-4. They are 5-4, and throughout this whole season here, 2-game win streak for them. Brooklyn Nets 4-4.
It's hard to see what's going to happen with them.
This team is so it's just so out there for me because you brought in Kyrie Irving for this year, and you've seen what he was like in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
Now there's throughout the story, the big storyline for the Nets this year has been that Kyrie's mood swings have been all over the place. We're starting to see some cracks in his armor, if you will.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting moving forward to see if we're going to have some more inner turmoil. And this also could be a byproduct of the fact that Kevin Durant is not on the floor yet. So maybe Kyrie's feeling like he's having to shoulder a lot more than what he thought he was going to have to start out with. Or it could be something more internal. You never know until these things actually break. So we'll definitely keep an eye on that and see where that breaking point hits. But it's interesting, right behind him, the Charlotte Hornets at 4-5. We thought Charlotte would be anywhere near the top 8 right now.
Yeah, a lot of people would think, myself included, would think that they are one of the worst teams in the NBA, but really surprising, 4-5 to start the season. They've lost 2 straight, but it's a long season. The Hornets will eventually fall back down. But, I mean, look at some of the bottom teams down there. Orlando Magic, 3-6, and that's probably one of the reasons why you see a team like the Hornets move up, because you got teams like the Magic in the standings that are they're the worst. They have the best defense of point per game in the league, but they also have the worst offense by a wide margin.
And we let games get away from us horrifically. Obviously, when the Magic started out, they won their opening day game against the Cavaliers, but then lost by 4 to the Hawks. You end up losing by 9 to the Raptors. Beat the Knicks, which anybody can do that, but then you get demoralized by the Milwaukee Bucks by over 30 points. Mm-hmm. Absolutely horribly. Lose to the Nuggets close, lose to the Thunder by 10, lose to the Mavs by 1. It's Magic just can't find consistency offensively to be able to keep in these games late and always end up allowing themselves to get outscored. But right now they did get their biggest win of the year so far against the Memphis Grizzlies, where Nikolai Vucevic ended up going off for 23 points
against the Grizzlies,
118-86. But still, like you just said, it's the Grizzlies. So
yeah, they just got to start beating teams that they're supposed to beat.
Yes, like this.
Yeah, like the Grizzlies, but they still got time to get things put together, and that's what they did last year. Is they got off to a rough start.
Yep.
They kind of were. Then they had a hot streak, and then they kind of just waited around 7, 8, 9 area, squeaked in the playoffs.
Squeaked in, but it's definitely going to be interesting. But looking at the Western Conference, a lot of interesting stuff going on over there. Obviously, you have the LA Lakers still leading. Nuggets now on a 3-game winning streak and have positioned themselves just 1 game behind the Lakers, with Houston right in tow, a half game behind them. So it's definitely very interesting to see what's been going on and shaping the top of the Western Conference.
Yeah, number 4 is the Clippers, 5 is the Jazz, 6 is the Mavericks, the surprising Mavericks this year. The Suns are probably the most surprising team here.
Yes.
They're 5-3 to start the year.
Playing great basketball.
Yeah, they're playing great ball right now. They Devin Booker, finally. And it's funny that it just took a coaching change. Monty Williams has them playing so well. They've been the laughingstock of the league for how long? And just some of the questionable moves that they've been making, but bringing in Ricky Rubio and having Monty Williams as your head coach now, maybe the Suns are actually turning it around.
And to be honest, the Suns are only 2 points away from being 7-1. So at the end of the day, this team is definitely overachieving from what anybody thought they would be able to do. So definitely an interesting turnaround for them, and I'm sure their fan base so happy. Our friend of the show, Dave.
Yeah,
huge Suns fan.
Dave Maynard, huge Suns fan. I'm sure he's got to be happy about that right now, seeing his Suns having the early season success. One of the big surprises, really, the Portland Trailblazers are 3-6.
Yes.
They've lost 4 straight games, and they've been giving up 114 points a game,
which is horrible.
Which is not good, especially in that Western Conference. Every game counts for the Blazers, and they're off to a rough start.
Even with Damian Lillard playing out of his mind, their most recent loss being to the Brooklyn Nets. They lost by 4 in a game where Damian Lillard scored 60 points and still couldn't find the W. So definitely not what you want. Their only wins this year being against the Kings, surprising win against the Mavericks, and then again against the Thunder, who we know is not the Thunder of old in any kind of way, in that Chris Paul-led team. So it's definitely interesting to see how far they have fallen. Do they rebound? Do they collect themselves? Is there some inner turmoil going on? Definitely find out as the season goes on.
Yeah, they got some easier games coming up over the next week. They play in the Hawks, the Kings. Then they got a stretch of 3 games that are tough: Raptors, Spurs, Rockets. But then their schedule gets a little bit easier again over the next bit. So I mean, they got a lot of time to turn it around. But yeah, they really need to already in the first month of the season. You got to watch out because they're sitting 5th in the Northwest Division. They right now are on the outside looking in.
And you want to talk about probably, I don't even know if we can say it was the most surprising, but definitely I think somewhat surprising is the Golden State Warriors 2-8 last in the Western Conference. And not that we should be too surprised in a lot of ways. Kevin Durant is gone. Iguodala was gone. You still have Thompson out with injury. Now you have Steph Curry with a broken hand. A minimum 3 months he's going to be out. So this is now the D'Lo-led Golden State Warriors.
And they've been without him.
And they've even been without him. So they have like nobody right now and have been absolutely getting blown out in some of these games they've been playing. And it's kind of sad to see just because we knew this year wasn't going to be quite as good as years past. But they've been getting flat out dominated. And like the biggest one I see, obviously their opening day game against the Clippers, they lost by 19 points. And I think it was shortly after that game or the game after where they lost by, 28 points, where Steve Kerr came out and said, you know what, blowout losses is something you're going to have to expect from this team this year. This isn't your team of old. And then they lost Steph Curry.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not been a good season so far.
It's really hard when you've got all your money tied up into 3 players, and then you have to go out and essentially, no offense to any of the players on that roster, because they're all obviously way better ball players than I am, but when you're rolling out scrubs as your top 5,
right?
I mean, you can't expect to win basketball games. Like I was watching the Wednesday night game against Houston at Houston.
Yep.
And that was rough. They rolled out 5 guys that most people have never heard of.
Exactly. And that's the thing that they're going to be dealing with all year because like you said, they have all their money tied up in 3 players who are out. You have 2 of them out with injury and one is kind of been hobbled and not playing all that great. So it's really hard to envision the Golden State Warriors being able to keep anything sustained, let alone try and make any kind of a push towards the upper echelon of the Western Conference standings.
Yeah, the only bright spots you can look at is the fact that D'Angelo Russell is playing well the last couple games. They did take Minnesota overtime, and Russell had 52 points in that game earlier this week. And you really got to be happy about the play of Eric Paschall too. He's their one of their newest players on the team, a second-round draft pick. He's averaging 16 points a game, and he's really stepped up and looked like that he could take the place of Draymond Green even, as far as if you need to get rid of him and shed some money. That could be a guy that could step in and take that spot and take over that role.
Absolutely could, but it's definitely something we're going to have to see as it shapes forward. We're still very young into the season. Most teams have not, or all the teams haven't even hit 10 games played yet, so definitely a lot of basketball left to play, so we'll definitely see how everything shapes out going forward. But now we're going to switch gears to some other basketball, a little bit of college basketball, and it's been a surprising start to the season. Michigan State started out as our #1 overall team for the first time in school history, and we ended up with our Champions Classic, and they didn't fare too well.
Well, Kentucky's as always. They don't rebuild, they reload.
Exactly.
Every single year. And they had that big win against Michigan State. And that, how great of an opening night for college basketball is that, where you've got 1 versus 2 and 3 versus 4.
Yeah,
you've got Duke and Kansas, and then Kentucky, Michigan State. If you're a college basketball fan, there's nothing better than that. But updated college basketball rankings here. #1, Kentucky, obviously. They're 2-0, had that big win against Michigan State. Duke, #2, also 2-0. had a couple big wins. One being over Kansas, the other being over Colorado State. Michigan State, number 3, they're still hanging there. They've only played the one game against Kentucky.
Yeah.
There. Number 4, Louisville.
Not too surprising, though. They've been playing some good basketball.
They have. They've really come a long way since that little scandal they had a couple of years ago. But they're back in the top 5. They are sitting at 1-0. Kansas at number 5, 1-1. They actually just had a big injury, if I'm not mistaken, non-contact injury from one of their players. I forget the name off the top of my head. Give me 1 second. But they're playing all right so far.
Yeah, we'll definitely see how a lot of things will shape up. There's been a lot of teams that have been kind of surprising to start out with. Some that have been a little bit of disappointing. So we'll definitely see how a lot of it shakes out. But it's so early in the season that there's so much basketball left to play. We'll definitely see how it ends up shaking out.
Yeah, number 6 Maryland. They're one of the favorites to win the Big Ten this year, along with Michigan State. Mm-hmm. They have a lot of high expectations. Number 7 Memphis, which they have a guy that we're going to talk about in a minute in our Give or Go segment.
Oh yeah,
James Wiseman, but he added 17 points, 9 rebounds, 5 blocks in that huge win on Friday over Illinois Chicago. North Carolina sitting at number 8. They're also 2-0. Cole Anthony. Huge game already. He's averaging 27 points and 10.5 rebounds through 2 games. Florida's at number 9. This is a big one here because Florida is looking to win the SEC, and they're a team that a lot of people are expecting to take the forefront right behind Kentucky there in the SEC. Defending champs, Virginia at number 10.
Yeah, definitely going to be interesting. This whole season, I feel, is going to be one that's not something anybody really expects. A lot of teams are really trying to take those steps forward to try and show their own national prominence. Teams, like you said, that just reload, like the Kentuckys and Kansases of the world, that are able to just go right back out, or even most notably Duke, who's always able to seemingly be able to reload because they're always attracting the top prospects along with their rival North Carolina. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how a lot of this is going to shake out. Because I feel that this Champions Tournament really kind of set the stage very, very early on in the season to show what some of these teams are going to be able to do. I feel like we almost had like a Final Four preview a little bit to be able to see what these teams might be able to actually be made of when against really good competition.
Absolutely. Got some big games coming up this week in college basketball. We'll talk about that a little bit more in the week ahead. But a couple of other teams. I know Oregon plays Memphis coming up soon. That's going to be a big top 15 matchup. Not really too many other surprises on this list here for the top 25.
But you know what is surprising is that Utah also set the largest score differential against a Division I opponent ever since the NCAA tournament was introduced in the 1938-1939 season. They won, get this, by 94 points, winning 143-49 against Mississippi Valley State.
Ooh.
And it was just an absolute demolition. This was the largest mark, which broke the record of 91 points set by Tulsa against Prairie View back in December of 1995. Absolutely insane.
Yeah, I mean, Mississippi Valley State, isn't that the pride of Jerry Rice?
There it is.
Pride of Jerry Rice.
Pride of Jerry Rice. Yeah. But this also broke school records. 143 points shattered their mark that had stood since 1960 when the Utes hung 132 points against Evansville. And then Utah's 73-point second half set a record for points and a half, surpassing the old record of 71 points that they also had against Evansville. So it's very interesting to see these kind of games happen. It makes it seem like it's kind of... There has to be a way, like maybe a mercy rule, like something. Like,
I know, right? You would kind of hope there might be a mercy rule there, but
I mean, at least I hope Utah was at home for this and not doing this at Mississippi Valley State, because that would just be demoralizing.
Very rarely do you see big power programs like that travel to much smaller schools.
I mean, Stanford rarely came to UCF,
but they're not Mississippi Valley State.
This is true, but either way, very surprising to see that kind of a win. But it's definitely going to be an interesting season. Hopefully Notre Dame can get something going. We're 1-1. We opened up with a loss to North Carolina, so hasn't been all that great for us starting out either. But we're not a traditional basketball powerhouse, even though we came into the ACC and won the title our first year. So, whatever. It's all good. Under the rug.
Cool, whatever.
Under the rug.
Yeah, and there's high expectations for Michigan's basketball team. You got Juwan Howard coming in, one of the Fab Five, coaching the team now. They've only had one game. They had a nail-biter against Appalachian State. So Here's a little bit of a tidbit.
Did they play basketball?
Here's a little bit of a tidbit. If you're ever going to think about scheduling Appalachian State in any sport, don't.
Just don't.
I mean, ask South Carolina in football.
Yeah, right. And that's the thing, is that Appalachian State is always a program that carries itself with a lot of pride as an athletic department. So, yeah, just avoid them.
Michigan's got some big games coming up as far as in the next couple days. They got a game against Creighton at home coming up, big game. And in a couple weeks, number 5 Louisville. They're at Louisville. That's going to be a big game for Michigan basketball.
That'll definitely be a big one. It definitely will show the kind of program you guys have going right now. So it'll definitely be a really good test for you guys going forward.
Yeah, it'll be a lot of fun. But that does it for our college basketball segment. And no sports history this week. We're going to skip that just because of time constraints.
Yes,
we're going to just jump right in to Give or Go.
Yes, Give or Go. And it's going to be an interesting one this week because we have basically one overall topic, and that's the NCAA suspending players in football and basketball. It seems like there's always these little scandals going on now, and I know we even talked about how the Fair Pay to Play Act might affect us going in the future, but that's for a future episode in the future. A lot of futureness going on. But either way,
say Future again.
Future? There's a rapper named Future. Would you like to listen to him? Either way, though, Ohio State defensive end Chase Young is now going to be suspended for 4 games after taking a loan from a quote-unquote family friend, which we found out was to fly his girlfriend to the Rose Bowl. Now, supposedly, he paid this money back, and the family friend, though, was found out to be a NFLPA certified agent. So that definitely kind of throws a lot of this all into question, a lot more than previously, because at first it was like, oh, well, it's just a loan from a personal family friend. He paid it back. Shouldn't be a big deal. When you find out they're a certified agent, that changes this whole story and puts it on its head.
Yeah, and then the more story that came out after that is, of course, the fact that the money that was loaned was to fly his girlfriend to the Rose Bowl, but even him paying it back. Realistically, Chase Young, it's not going to be. He gets a slap on the wrist. He's suspended for 4 games. Maybe he's ruled ineligible. Whatever. But the agent in this case really he really could get in trouble big time.
Huge
because
trouble.
that's a way to get your license taken away.
Yeah.
Your certification can get pulled for stuff like this.
Absolutely. So it's definitely going to be interesting to see how this story will progress from here. But let's look at the flip side of what happened with Memphis freshman James Wiseman, who was ruled ineligible hours before tip-off with this past Friday night. And he was already ruled eligible back in May, and then a reversal to try and keep him out of this game, which he went right down and filed a restraining order against the NCAA to be able to play in that game within an hour of him finding out about this. So it's been a very interesting turn of events. What more do we have on this?
Well, really the story comes from the fact that in earlier in the year or even last year, James Wiseman was a high school player in the state of Tennessee, and his high school coach was Penny Hardaway. So Penny Hardaway had given his family, get this, $11,500 in moving expenses to move his family from Nashville to Memphis. Now, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the state of Tennessee. They are on kind of opposite sides of the state a little bit, but it's not that far. It's not that far away. It doesn't cost $11,000 to move from one city to another in the same state.
Yeah,
that doesn't make sense.
Ridiculous. I'm going to bring it up right here where it says that, potential number 1 pick in the 2020 NBA draft was declared eligible in May. But, yeah, $11,500 in moving expenses. I'm sorry. It takes me, maybe $1,000 to get all that done. Really? $11,500? So it definitely calls all of this into question. And how's this going to affect things going forward?
Oh, probably what's going to happen is I think part of the reason why Wiseman was able to get the restraining order on the NCAA so quickly, his camp had to know about this. There's some.
Oh, absolutely.
His camp had to know that at some point the NCAA is going to say, you know what, you're ineligible. He was so prepared. They said that they watched him. Spectators or writers have watched him leave a shoot around in a suit or something. But they just thought he was going to class. Comes back, turns out he went to a clerk court and got a temporary restraining order against the NCAA for essentially it could hurt his mental health or something. I can't remember the reason why, but it was something kind of like, okay, that's a weird reason to get a restraining order.
I mean, it worked though.
But it worked. Here's the problem. If, of course, you know, the NCAA is going to take that to court right away. They're going to dispute that.
Absolutely.
And when they do, I'm pretty sure at some point Wiseman's probably going to lose this battle. Mm-hmm. He's going to be declared ineligible, and Memphis is going to have to vacate all the games that he's involved in. So, but he's a one-and-done player. He's going to the NBA next year. This is all the more reason why the NBA just needs to get rid of the one-and-done rule.
Yes.
So to allow players like this to just jump straight to the NBA so we don't have to deal with this kind of stuff. The schools have to still go through this, and now they're going to get probably violations thrown on them.
Oh, have sanctions levied.
Yeah, and have sanctions that the school really didn't know anything about, or really it's all Penny Hardaway and the player.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's absolutely atrocious because now you're going to affect a whole program who had no idea whatsoever about all this. So I feel the one and done system definitely needs to be pushed to the side. I can't wait till it actually happens. That way we don't have to worry this kind of crap anymore. So
yeah. But really the funny thing, I want to go back to Chase Young real quick, because just real quick, because you're talking about him getting suspended 4 games because he took a loan from a quote family friend. Mm-hmm. So think about this: he was suspended 4 games for accepting that loan. This is how backwards the NCAA is. They'll suspend players like that for just anything. Mm-hmm. You find money on the ground. Oh, you can't keep that. That you get suspended for a season.
Should have called the police.
But when you got guys like Urban Meyer running programs, and he was only suspended 3 games for mishandling the domestic assault stuff with his assistant coach Zach Smith, mm-hmm. and he misrepresented what he knew in a public statement, he gets slapped on the wrist and gets 3 games. But a player gets 4 games for less than that?
Yeah, but he also harbored Jesus and a murderer on the same team. So, I mean, Urban Meyer does no wrong.
But that's the backwards part about the NCAA is they'll be so quick to suspend players for this kind of stuff. But for coaches that are doing way worse than that, if you're at a power conference school, now just slap on the wrist. You're okay.
How about Steve Sarkisian? There's another good example. Being openly drunk in public and at different events definitely was a big issue there, too.
The USC booster event.
Oh, there you go. Yeah,
remember that one?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that was fun. But it's okay because Urban Meyer went into retirement for his health and family, and he's going to come back and go coach at USC next year. Which is, if you were paying attention last week, you want to take that bet?
I will take that bet.
You're taking the bet?
I'll take the bet.
You heard it here first, live on Facebook. Chris Wilson, by the time the next college football season comes around, I'm going to have a USC Trojan costume waiting for you to wear on air when I win this bet, that Urban Meyer will be the head coach of USC next year.
Not going to happen. So that means I get since you're going to put me in my hated rival's mascot's outfit, that means if I win this bet, I can get you a nice like Buckeye hat or something going on.
That was not part of the deal, sir.
There has to be repercussions. It has to be a 2-way street, sir.
There can be.
This is no one way.
There can be, but like for me, this is a no-lose situation. So
I hate you so much right now. Either way, though, we're going to move on to the week ahead, and a lot of great things are going to be happening in the upcoming week in the NBA, in college football, in hockey. So many great things going on. What do we have?
Well, it would start with the NBA. There's some big games coming up this week. Of course, tonight you've got the Raptors, who are 6-2, out to LA playing against the Lakers, 7-1 at 9:30 tonight. And then tomorrow night, the Raptors stay in LA, but they play the Clippers this time.
That's right.
This is Kawhi's first scheduled game against his former team. Now, whether he plays or not is a different story.
Oh,
but that's going to be Monday night. Tuesday night, we got the Lakers at the Suns. Of course, the surprising Suns. And Wednesday night, the Magic host the 76ers here in the Orlando area.
Let's go Magic. See what happens. And let's not forget about college football. Tuesday and Wednesday night is what?
It's Maction night.
It's Maction night. It's going to be exciting with a lot of our MAC teams going at it between Western Michigan traveling to Ohio on ESPN2, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Michigan at Akron on ESPNU at 8 p.m. And then Wednesday,
Battle of the Bottom Feeders.
that's right, Bowling Green traveling to Miami of Ohio and Northern Illinois going to Toledo. Definitely going to be some action going on those nights. But of course, we got North Carolina traveling to Pitt on Thursday night on ESPN. Definitely going to be exciting. 8 p.m. game. But Saturday, this is where the matchups
So
happen.
many big games on Saturday.
So many big games. So many rivalries are going to be happening. Michigan State traveling to the Big House to take on the Michigan Wolverines on Fox at 12 p.m. It's definitely going to be a great high noon game. You guys are going to kill each other. I can't wait. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And your Notre Dame Fighting Irish are going to host Navy.
Whew, we got to keep them away.
2:30 on NBC.
Yeah, I got to keep them away. No more upsets from them.
Yeah, battle of ranked teams there. Wake Forest plays against Clemson on ABC at 3:30. And then SEC matchup, Georgia and Auburn, which is going to be a big game there.
Huge.
Georgia's still in the driver's seat for the SEC East, so they got to win out to have a chance.
Absolutely have to. And then Minnesota travels to Iowa on Fox at 4 p.m. Another battle of possibly ranked teams if Iowa can stay up in it. But the big thing is that Minnesota is going to keep rowing that boat, making magic happen.
Yeah, Minnesota needs to keep pace. They have a 2-game lead in the Big Ten West, but Iowa really tough at home. Kinnick Stadium's a very tough place to play.
Very.
So it's going to be a really fun game to watch, especially as a Big Ten fan.
And then we can't forget the leaders of the Big 12. Oklahoma travels down to take on Baylor. ABC for our 7:30 p.m. primetime game. This is going to be a game that's pretty much going to decide who the true power in the Big 12 really is.
Yeah, this is a measuring stick game for Baylor. I mean, you're undefeated and you're leading the Big 12, but if you lose this game to Oklahoma, your shot at potentially making the playoff is gone.
Absolutely.
And I think if Oklahoma wins that game, they're right back in the conversation in the top 4, top 5.
But I think if Baylor wins, automatically they're going to be propelled into the top 10, and we might see some surprise in the shakeup when we get to the end of the season for that college football playoff. But the NHL also has their little slate going on. Wednesday night, the Washington Capitals travel to Philadelphia to take on my Flyers on NBC Sports, 7:30 p.m. game. It's going to be a great game. Let's go Flyers. Got to get a win.
Second of a doubleheader there. You got the Chicago Blackhawks and the Vegas Golden Knights at 10 o'clock after your Flyers and Capitals game. Wednesday night is always fun to watch on NBC Sports. They do Wednesday night rivalry night, which that's where the Capitals Flyers game comes in.
And that's going to be so good. I can't wait.
That's going to be a lot of fun to watch.
It's going to be hard hitting. I can't wait. But Thursday night, we have the Carolina Hurricanes traveling to take on the Buffalo Sabres at 7 p.m. It's going to be a very interesting matchup. Hurricanes trying to keep pace. Buffalo Sabres haven't been too bad themselves, so definitely going to be interesting. But then the second part of that game, Avalanche travel to the Oilers, take on Connor McDavid in Edmonton. It's going to be a great game. And spoiler alert, I think Edmonton's going to take it.
Ooh, that's a bold prediction, sir. Not really, but
not that bold, but Edmonton definitely
I like to call everything a bold prediction.
Why not? It's just, it makes everything sound so bold.
Yeah.
I love it. Then Friday night, the Boston Bruins travel up across the border into Toronto to take on the Maple Leafs. Not the Leaves.
Speaking of a big rivalry game, look at that.
Yeah, that's going to be a great game.
Two teams at the top of their division. They're basically they got to fight it out. I mean, the Bruins have been the best team in the NHL so far.
Mm-hmm.
Maple Leafs have high expectations. That's going to be a high tense game.
Very high tense. Game. Very high. Very high. Then Saturday night hockey, we're going to be having the Capitals again on the road taking on the Boston Bruins. That's going to be a big game, especially with Boston coming off that game against Toronto, then having to turn around and take on the Capitals. Definitely not going to be easy, but it's definitely going to be very interesting to see how that one works out. And then you have the late game, the Colorado Avalanche traveling to Vancouver to take on the Canucks. 10 p.m. start time. It's going to be a very interesting matchup for that one as well.
That's going to be a very fun game to watch. I'm really looking forward to a couple of these games on the docket.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be very interesting. But sadly, that brings us to the end of our episode 35 of Final Score, live on Facebook Live. Make sure that you keep up to date on all things Final Score by following us on all of our social media accounts on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at PCN Final Score. Give us a like, give us a follow, check mark for the notifications, and more importantly, give us a rating and let us know how we're doing, because we want to try and make sure we bring the best sportscast experience that we can to you, the fans. But also, you can find us on all of our myriad of different content platforms, including Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Podbean, YouTube, Stitcher, TuneIn, and of course, Google Play Music. You can go on any of those platforms, search keyword Final Score, and find all of our great content there. And just make sure to check mark for a follow and for the notification, so you can always know when we come out with our latest content, because there's always something going on in sports. It never ends.
And that's the one thing we all love about it, is it never ends. Depending on what sport you're into, there's a different night of the week for you. So it's a lot of fun.
There's always something.
It's always fun being a sports fan.
That's right. And then here at Final Score, though, we're at the end of our episode, so sadly you'll be able to catch us next week for episode 36, where we give a lot of updates for all this craziness going on, especially college football, because it's going to be rivalry week. It's going to be a lot of great stuff.
Yeah, it's going to be it's a big week in college football. I'm excited. But, actually, Final Score, we're going to be representing at the Jacksonville Icemen minor league hockey game next weekend.
Oh, snap. Look at you go.
We'll be doing some posting and stuff from there, so if you want to kind of look out, be on the lookout for that on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter, we'll be there.
Yeah, and also make sure you keep an eye out for our question of the week that we'll be posting later on Twitter. So definitely make sure that you go on there at PCN Final Score and check that out when that is posted. But until next time, I'm Chris, that's Craig, and you just watched Final Score. Have a great night.
Podcast City Network.